Chapter 652. Yu Hong felt that he was in an awkward situation. To think that I, the core member of the Tang Jie Foundation, who was deeply trusted by Tang Xiaokai, came all the way back to the country to be your right-hand man. Although Mr. Tang had previously said that it didn't matter if the company was making a profit or losing money, Mr. Chen's attitude was a little too casual. All right, no matter how much Yu Hong felt, he still followed Chen Guang's instructions and went to Beijing with Fang Tianyu and Lu Xiaoliang to carry out the mission that Chen Guang had casually thrown out. It didn't matter if the boss's decision was stupid or not, but as the boss's subordinate, even if he knew that the decision was stupid and fraudulent, he still had to complete the task given by the boss, since he was still receiving his salary. If he did his job properly, it would be the boss's fault if he lost money in the end. If he didn't complete the task given by the boss, he might not be happy even if he helped him earn money in the end. What if Mr. Chen really had a far-sighted plan and could use his sharp judgment to see through the market and point to the core of the company's development when they still couldn't understand it? What if what he said was right? Idiot! Wake up! They were getting closer and closer to a heavily guarded villa, but Chu Hanji was still snoring loudly. Chen Guang began to panic. If Secretary Chu knew that he had forced his nephew to take 3 hypnotic pills, Secretary Chu would fight him to the death, right? Finally, Chu Hanji opened his eyes in a daze. See, Chief Chen, where are we now? I'm not very sure either. We just passed 2 especially large huanghua trees, the kind that would require 7 or 8 people to wrap their arms around it. The forest in front is very dense. I didn't expect there to be such a place in Beijing. Seeing that he had finally woken up, Chen Guang felt relieved. What? Chu Hanji let out a low cry, then abruptly came to his senses. He sat up straight and subconsciously tidied up his clothes. Why are you so surprised? Chu Hanji saw that he didn't take it seriously, so he reminded him softly, Chief Chen, we're almost there. Be serious. Chen Guang was even more puzzled. Do you have to be like this? Do you really have to be like this? I'm going to see the bureau chief. Chief Chen. Chu Hanji's breathing quickened. Yes, and then? Could meeting the bureau chief prolong one's life? Your ribs are about to break, aren't they? Chief Chen, are you really not nervous? That's the chiefs we're talking about. Patting on Su Tao's shoulder, Chen Guang replied, Lad, I've never felt that I'm a big shot in the past. But ever since I met you, I've started to believe that I do have the talent to become a big shot. He really didn't understand what those old men had to be afraid of. Anyway, even if he held a knife to his neck, he wouldn't be as inexplicably nervous as Chu Hanji. After passing through layers of extremely tight security, the car finally stopped outside a courtyard house with vermilion doors and sorghum. Chen Guang got out of the car. Secretary Chu was waiting at the door. He still had that warm smile on his face. As an exceptionally important secretary, he had truly done his best to be a person. Chu Hanji, who got out of the car with him, looked at his uncle nervously. He lowered his head and didn't dare to say anything. Secretary Chu first waved at Chen Guang. Little Chen, you're here. The chiefs are all waiting for you. Chen Guang greeted Secretary Chu and went in on his own. He didn't know where to throw Chu Hanji. This poor guy wasn't qualified to enter the courtyard house. As soon as he entered, Chen Guang saw a few old men sitting under a tree, shouting and playing chess. Old Jiang and Old Jean were sitting opposite each other, and a bunch of old men that he had never seen before were pointing fingers at each other. It was a lively scene, and there wasn't the slightest bit of tension or seriousness in the atmosphere. Recalling how Chu Hanji was so nervous that he started sweating, Chen Guang found it funny. Is there a need for that? Oh, little Chen is here? Great, let's talk about something. On the other side, old Jiang, who was scratching his ears and cheeks, looked around and saw Chen Guang when he raised his head, and he abruptly stood up. Don't you dare run. Finish this game. Old Jean didn't agree. Old Jiang quietly moved his big butt and touched the chessboard lightly. The chessboard was overturned, and with a clattering sound, black and white chess pieces were scattered all over the ground. Ah, the chessboard is overturned. Forget it, old Jean. I won't argue with you today. It's a draw, okay? Go to hell. I have at least 5 more eyes than you. And you have the cheek to say it's a draw. You disrespectful old man. I'm going to kill you. Old Jean rolled up his sleeves and was about to charge at him. All right. Be quiet. Don't let the younger generation laugh at you. An old man on the side coughed seriously and finally calmed the crowd down. Chen Guang looked at the group of old men quietly and thought to himself, although you say don't let me laugh at you, your bodies are exceptionally honest when you are fighting. It seemed that with his arrival, this unique game of chess and the amateur activity of gossiping about despicable people had officially come to an end. Old man Jean put down his dispute and ran over to pull him back. The other group of old men went to the main hall of the courtyard one after another. It seemed that they were going to discuss something. Chen Guang, come here. I have something to ask you. Old Jean smiled and pulled Chen Guang to a corner of the courtyard. The afternoon sun shone on the small courtyard, and the cicadas on the trees were singing the last song of summer. The leaves were blown by the wind, and the air was filled with the faint scent of grass and flowers. The scene looked very harmonious, but Chen Guang felt a chill in his heart. He didn't know why, but he was a little nervous when he saw this old man. Although he knew that he would have to see him in Beijing, he was terrified when he actually saw him. What if he forced me to marry him? How should I answer him? Sigh. Just thinking about it gives me a headache. Grandpa Jean this that. Fine. He could understand Chu Hanji's feelings a little. But that kid was born to be inferior to others while he felt guilty. Unexpectedly, old Master Jean did not talk about Jean Shirua with him. Instead, he smiled and asked with concern, how is it? Are you enjoying your position as the head bureau chief? Nodding his head, Chen Guang replied, everything's fine. You came to Beijing alone this time, right? Are the two deputy chiefs staying in Beijing? Old Master Jean continued to ask with a smile. Chen Guang nodded. Yes. There are more things to do at the headquarters recently. Fortunately, they are helping me. Otherwise, I won't be able to handle it alone. He shamelessly asked for credit. In truth, Xian Qin and Wu Miaowan had already done everything. He was even unwilling to look at the summary report. They would have to put a knife to his neck to do so. The two of them didn't cause any trouble? Did they listen to your orders? Old Master Jean widened his eyes slightly and seemed a little surprised. Chen Guang nodded. It's all right. Xian Qin and Wu Miaowan are very obedient. Old Master Jin's eyes narrowed into slits. He seemed to be satisfied with Chen Guang. Since you said so, we can rest assured. We were worried that the people from the Thousand Despair sect and Thousand Flower Valley would be arrogant and unruly. I didn't expect you to make them so obedient. When I recommended you to be the head of the Guangding headquarters, many people had different opinions. You did a good job and didn't make things difficult for me. Only then did Chen Guang realize something. It seemed that it was an incredible ability to command Xian Qin and Wu Miaowan around like a madman. When he thought about it, it made sense. The two little Lolas were inner force martial artists after all. They were highly skilled, and their personalities were jumpy. It was indeed difficult for ordinary people to control them. He had also relied on his charm to seduce them. Uft. He had relied on his personal charm. Haha. Perhaps it was the temptation of the painting scroll. Or maybe it was his godly dart skills and fame in the global escort industry that helped Xian Qin increase the influence of her Thousand Despair sect. In short, little Xian Qin had inexplicably relied on him. At the same time, her bestie Wu Miaowan also became easier to talk to. So this is what I'm capable of? I was born to do great things. Ha, Grandpa Jean, you flatter me. This is what I should do. Chen Guang cupped his hands slightly and said humbly with his head lowered. I'm not flattering you. You don't know how difficult it was for us to deal with inner force martial artists in the past. Otherwise, we wouldn't have made no progress in the past few decades. This time, we made up our minds and fought with our lives on the line, just to get things done once and for all. Those strong people are arrogant and unreasonable. That's why we came up with the idea of using martial arts to rule martial arts. If we want the Guangding General Bureau to escape the vicious circle of the Special Affairs Bureau, we have to cooperate with martial artists from the beginning and integrate them into our own system. However, in the past, our dealings with martial artists often ended on bad terms. It's extremely difficult for both parties to come to an agreement, but you've solved the problem. Of course, it's all thanks to you. Chen Guang asked curiously. But as far as I know, the Thousand Despair sect and the Thousand Flower Valley aren't very strong martial arts forces. Are they? If you want to use martial arts to rule martial arts, you should at least find a strong enough partner, right? Old man Jean rolled his eyes. Do you think we don't want to? However, the stronger the sect, the more arrogant they are. We can't even contact them, let alone work together. The Thousand Despair sect's abbess took the initiative to propose a partnership, and we're more than happy. Why would we be picky? Besides, using martial arts to rule martial arts doesn't mean that the martial artists we're on good terms with are strong. They're just a link for communication. What really allows us to hold our heads up high is still the power in our own hands. As for which sect your two deputy chiefs are from, that's not important. Chen Guang nodded. That's true. Grandpa Jean, you're right. The older the wiser. Don't let your guard down too much. For now, the Guangdong General Bureau only needs to communicate with the Special Affairs Bureau's personnel, who can be instigated. However, once the individual military exercise ends tomorrow, there will be martial arts forces spying on us one after another. At that time, how do we convey the spirit of the central government? How do we make these people vigilant and not dare to act recklessly without being overly sensitive and conflicted? How do the two sides reach a specific cooperation intention? That's the most difficult part of our work. Chen Guang began to feel dizzy. Old man seemed to be in the zone, but I don't really want to hear about these things. I just want to take my revenge and help Wenwen solve her problems, okay? At present, the most basic standards we've set are as follows. First of all, we need to distinguish whether these people are real or fake. If we find people who are pretending to be, but actually have ulterior motives, or people who keep giving advice and acting recklessly, you need to report it immediately. If necessary, we'll use our military force to strike them down as a warning to others. If they're real, we need to have a detailed discussion with them. We need them to hand over a list of their members and the specific location of their sect. At the very least, we need to know which people are inner force martial artists. If we encounter a particularly weak sect, we can try to exchange techniques with them with suitable conditions. Chen Guang basically wanted to fall asleep. It was a hot summer day, and he was sitting under the shade of a tree. It was a good time to take an afternoon nap. In addition, the temporary administrative measures for inner force martial artists that we're drafting will also clarify the scope of their privileges. We won't completely deprive them of their privileges. After all, they're also capable people and deserve to be respected. However, their privileges will no longer be as boundless as before. It's strictly forbidden to treat ordinary people as if they were grass. Chen Guang's eyes narrowed, and he seemed to be listening very carefully. Once the cooperation between the two parties is confirmed, the other party will at least have to be registered in the Guangdong General Bureau. Entering and leaving the country will also be regulated. If a large-scale fight inevitably breaks out, it must be reported and registered, and the innocent must not be harmed. Even if it's added later, it's acceptable. The registration of a sect will have a certain degree of economic and political advantage, but our ultimate goal is to form a deeper cooperation. Of course, all of this is just an armchair strategist like us old men. We still have to wait for the matter between the One family and the dark sect to come to an end. Right now, these two forces are in a fierce battle, and the outcome will affect the entire pugilistic world of inner force martial artists. We still need you to maintain communication with the One family and provide them with the necessary help. Currently, we're more optimistic about the moderate One family. Hey, Chen Guang. Chen Guang. Huh. All right, Grandpa Jean. I'll definitely complete the mission. Hee hee, young man. I'm relieved that you're so confident. Old Master Jean patted Chen Guang's shoulder again. He was very satisfied with his high fighting spirit. All right, I can tell that you don't like to stay with old guys like us. The side yard next door is a place for you young people to gather. Go there and wander around. Only the young people have a common language. I'm going in for the meeting. Finally, they could escape. Chen Guang and Old Master Jean nodded and were about to leave. By the way, don't let Sherwa down. She's really serious about you. Old Master Jean suddenly added behind Chen Guang. Chen Guang's body stiffened, and he slowly turned around like a wooden man. Just as he was about to say something to fool the old man, he realized that the old man had already stepped into the inner gate. He did not even wait for him to reply. Chapter 653. Secretary Chu had already walked over with a strange smile on his face. Little Chun, come over here. There are quite a lot of youngsters here today. I'm sure you guys have something to talk about. Chen Guang didn't want to talk to any youngsters. His mind was filled with memories of what old Master Jean said when he was in a daze just now. Forget it, don't worry about the details. I'll just deal with it as it comes. Unlike the courtyard house where the old masters were, the side house next to it was much more lively. But when Chen Guang saw the bunch of youngsters that old Master Jean mentioned, he felt a headache coming on. The youngsters in your house are all old guys in their 40s and 50s. I should call the youngest one here uncle, okay? That's right. Isn't that my uncle Wu Shanwu, who is wandering around in the crowd? What the F***ck can I have in common with these old men? I just want to find a quiet place to hook up with the female fans on Weibo, okay? That's right. The people gathered in the side house weren't the group of youngsters that he ate with at the youth hall last time. Instead, they were the parents of those youngsters. Currently, there were many youngsters who held real power in the country, be it in the military or in the political circle. In short, none of them were simple. In a sense, to old Master Jean, they were indeed the standard youngsters. Like Shen Yuliang, or those high school girls in the youth hall. They weren't even qualified to participate in the meetings and gatherings of this place. Perhaps Bai Hua was qualified to attend, but he was still considered a junior. Yo, Brother Chen is here. Welcome, welcome. While Chen Guang was in a daze, a robust man donned in military uniform came over and patted Chen Guang's shoulder with a chuckle, before calling him Big Brother Chen. Chen Guang looked at this man quietly and thought, Uncle, you look quite similar to old Master Jiang, coupled with your body, bald head, and your fierce face with a big beard. For some reason, I really want to kneel down when you call me brother. Come, let me introduce everyone to you. Oh right, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Jiang Yuanchao, Jiang Ye's father. Young man, don't be nervous. I just lost a bet with Wu Shan. I said that if I lost, I would have to call you Brother Chen. It was just a joke. Don't worry about titles. The middle-aged baldy happily patted Chen Guang's shoulder and called him Brother Chen again. After that, he even raised his eyebrows provocatively at Wu Shan, who was standing awkwardly to the side. Chen Guang couldn't help thinking of the unreasonable baldy, old Master Jiang, and then the equally unreasonable and unconventional Jiang Ye. At this moment, Jiang Yuanchao was completely in line with the logic of not being part of the same family. Uncle. No, he was half a father-in-law. You calling me brother makes me want to shorten my life. He wanted to die. Don't. Please don't. Uncle Jiang, you can just call me Little Chun or Chen Guang. Or you can call me nephew. Please don't call me brother, it gives me goosebumps. Chen Guang struggled as he was pulled forward by Jiang Yuanchao. Sai, you're so boring. Didn't I hear that you're very impudent? You can't even take a little joke. It's not fun at all. Jiang Yuanchao seemed to be joking as he said this angrily. By then, the two had reached Wu Shan's side. Wu Shan was amused by Chen Guang's timid behavior. Wu Shan couldn't help recalling Chen Guang, who had tried Su Lijing and Wang Ren in court. At that time, Chen Guang was really unexpected. He was also cold and decisive. Compared to his current embarrassed appearance, Chen Guang seemed like a completely different person. Wu Shan smiled and leaned over. Chen Guang, don't be nervous. Jiang Yuanchao likes to joke around. He's already so old, but he's still so impudent. But in terms of rank, you're not much worse than us. So it's not a big deal to call you brother. How about I call you Brother Chen too? Chen Guang's eyes widened. Oh my god. Two father-in-law calling me brother at the same time. I'm so nervous. I'm going to get my karma. Seeing that he was about to turn and run, Wu Shan and Jiang Yuanchao stopped joking with him. They were elders after all. And teasing Chen Guang was to help him blend into the environment. In fact, Wu Shan's feelings were extremely complicated. He understood his daughter's feelings for Chen Guang, but he also knew that this kid wasn't just a fish in a pond, nor was he someone easy to deal with. Unknowingly, more and more people noticed him. Putting aside his temperament, who would have thought that in his not-so-muscular body, there was actually an explosive force of 800 kilograms of fist force? How terrifying was that? He was definitely not as simple as he looked on the surface. If he had a choice, Wu Shan really wanted to have a good talk with Wu Tong and ask her to stay away from Chen Guang, so far away that she would never see him again. But Wu Shan knew that this was just his wishful thinking. He had already put in a lot of effort to make Wu Tong stay in Yinjing, and Chen Guang had even asked for it. Based on his father-daughter relationship with Wu Tong, she would do whatever he wanted her to do. Forget it. I'll just let it be. That brat, Chen Guang, isn't like Shimin Qing or Chen Shimi without a conscience. He has his own responsibilities. And if my daughter really wants to fly into the fire, how can I stop her? From the moment Wu Shan made the decision to agree to let Shi Jiao bring Wu Tong onto the helicopter, even though he knew that there was a bomb on the helicopter, Wu Shan knew that he had no right to interfere with any of Wu Tong's decisions. This was because her life was saved by Chen Guang. If it weren't for Chen Guang, Wu Tong and Shi Jiao would have been blown up into a cloud of fireworks in the sky. He could lie to others, but he couldn't lie to his own heart. On the other side, Jiang Yuanchao had already started introducing Chen Guang to the people one by one. Just as Chen Guang had expected, these people were all big shots from various departments, provinces, or military regions. They were all young people, or more precisely young and vigorous. Even though he knew that his current status, as the head of the general administration of Guangding, was not much lower than that of the people present, he still felt awkward. There was really nothing to talk about with these uncles. What made him most uncomfortable was that there was something magical in the world of these adults. That was, when others greeted you with a warm smile on their faces, but in fact, there was deep disdain and jealousy hidden in their eyes. To put it bluntly, Wu Shan was probably the only one here who was really familiar with Chen Guang. Jiang Yuanchao probably had a good impression of Chen Guang, because he often heard Jiang Yage talk about him. As for the others, it was the first time that they had met Chen Guang in person, so they were completely unfamiliar with him. Where there were people, there would be Jianghu. This so-called Jianghu was the way of the world. To put it bluntly, it was competition. To put it even more bluntly, it was factions. Wu Shan, Jiang Yuanchao, Jin Shiyue's father, and Xuelin's father, Xuezhan, should belong to the same faction. Although the courtyard was bustling with dozens of people walking around in groups of twos and threes, with smiles on everyone's faces and warm greetings, there were actually at least 3 to 4 different forces and factions here. In their seemingly meaningless chatter, there were hidden blades and swords. It was hard to understand if one did not personally experience it. Sometimes, even in this kind of informal and casual social occasion, a wrong word or a wrong attitude could bring far-reaching consequences. Chen Guang was young and did not come from a prominent family. He was inexplicably pushed to his current position, although he did not take it seriously, and the people here who really knew his identity as the director of the Guangding General Bureau were only talking about a few core members, just from the fact that Secretary Chu brought him here. It could be seen that in the hearts of the elders, Chen Guang was on the same level as all the young people here. His appearance made the already turbulent social occasion even more turbulent. There would always be people who were jealous and dissatisfied. Chen Guang was too young, and his appearance was too sudden. Compared to these people who had climbed to their positions step by step, it was too unreasonable. In the eyes of some people who knew a little inside information, but did not know everything, Chen Guang was able to attend this occasion because of the Jin family's care for him. But this care was too much, and even Lin Jingwei was not qualified to do so. As one of the core members here, Jiang Yuanchao also acted too familiar with Chen Guang, which stung many people's hearts. No matter how easygoing their smiles were, how could the jealousy and hatred in the depths of their eyes escape the eyes of Chen Guang, the world-class acting master? Although they were experienced, skilled in deception, and each of them boasted of their excellent acting skills, Chen Guang was the best acting master in history. Hence, he didn't want to stay here, nor did he want to stay here. As an old monster that has lived for 200 years, Chen Guang didn't want to argue with these people. Perhaps the old masters had good intentions, letting him show Jiang Yuanchao and Wu Shan around in this kind of occasion. If he really wanted to enter politics in the future, this was a rare opportunity for him to practice. But he did not like it. You guys treat it like a treasure, but I throw it away like a broken broom, okay? Well, Uncle Jiang, Uncle Wu, I'm a little sleepy. Why don't you guys talk? I'll find a place to rest. After exchanging a few words with the last group of people, and being praised for being a talented young man, Chen Guang bade farewell to Jiang Yuanchao and Wu Shan, and was ready to leave. Before Jiang Yuanchao and Wu Shan could say anything, a middle-aged man in a suit came over and said with a fake smile, "Little Chen, your body is a little weak. You're so young, but you're already sleepy in the middle of the day. How are you going to take on heavy responsibilities in the future?" Chen Guang turned his head to look at this man. He had just had a brief conversation with this slightly chubby middle-aged man, with mixed silver and white hair. Unlike the others, who mostly had disdain and jealousy in their eyes, this guy's eyes were clearly filled with hatred. If he remembered correctly, this man was a director of the Ministry of Finance, in the same department as Su Lijing, who had already ascended to heaven. He might even be Su Lijing's student. An enemy, no doubt. Many people were also paying attention to this side. It seemed that everyone wanted to see Chen Guang's reaction, to see how shrewd he was. Being famous at a young age was not scary, but being mature at a young age was really scary. In fact, it wasn't that Chen Guang didn't know how to be shrewd, but for this kind of person who stood up for Su Lijing to disgust him, he really didn't need to say a few words. I don't have any heavy responsibilities, and I can be sleepy whenever I want. You don't have to worry about me. As soon as he said this, many people in the hall looked at him with playful eyes. Sure enough, young people were hot-tempered. Wasn't the subtext of his words, "None of your business"? Not only was the official from the Ministry of Finance not angry, but his eyes lit up. Why don't I have to worry about you? I'm an elder, so it's natural for me to care about the younger generation. You're the pillar of our country, so you have to take care of yourself. Chen Guang's eyes gradually narrowed. Yes, that's right. According to age, many of the people in this hall are indeed my elders. I admit that I look young, but it doesn't feel right coming from your mouth, does it? Who the hell likes to recognize elders? It's natural for me to call those who are close to me uncle. But who do you think you are? I don't even remember your name, and you have the cheek to call yourself an elder? Sorry, I'm not close to you. Chen Guang's face turned cold as he said indifferently, "So sir, please don't lecture me." Suddenly slapped in the face in front of everyone, this young man from the Ministry of Finance was caught off guard. He didn't expect this kid to be so irritable in this kind of situation. Do you even understand what kind of place this is? Who are these people you're talking to? Do you still want to walk this path in the future? Young people are still hot-tempered. If you can't keep your cool, how can you take on heavy responsibilities? Little Chen, your current identity is different from the past, and your position is also very sensitive. You have to be steady, otherwise, I'm afraid you're not suitable for such an important position. At this moment, a middle-aged man in military uniform stood up and interrupted. It seemed like he was one of the core members who knew Chen Guang's position, but he didn't seem to be on the same side as Jiang Yuanchao Wu Shan. Chen Guang looked at this person and rolled his eyes. Fine, you guys are taking turns to lecture me. Don't put on the airs of an elder in front of me. You just want to provoke me, or vent your dissatisfaction with me. Otherwise, you just want me to lose my temper and leave the impression that I'm incompetent. Then, you can go back and criticize me to the elders. You can replace me with someone you think you can rely on to be the director of the General Administration of Light. He was well aware of these people and started to get annoyed. It was true that he didn't want to go into politics from the beginning. It had only been a short time, and he was already disgusted. Chao Jingming, it's not up to you and me to decide whether Chen Guang is suitable or not. The elders have their own considerations, and this is the result of their discussion. It's not up to us to make irresponsible remarks. If you have any opinions, you can bring them up directly. Don't be sarcastic here, and let people laugh at you for no reason. Jiang Yuanchao put on a straight face and defended Chen Guang. Chapter 654. Yuanchao, you seem to be in a bad temper recently. Why are your words so harsh? You're already angry? Did I say anything wrong? The military figure named Chao Jingming immediately turned his attention to Jiang Yuanchao, who spoke up for Chen Guang, with a smile still on his face. Don't play games with me. I don't like it. Chen Guang, let's go. Jiang Yuanchao tried to pull Chen Guang, but found that he couldn't move him. He seemed to be nailed to the ground, not moving an inch. Wu Shan covered his forehead. Damn, this kid's temper is coming back. Chao Jingming, on the other hand, felt that he had achieved his objective, so he continued with a smile. I'm just saying a few words. Those people are harder to deal with than us, and Chen Guang's temper is going to cause trouble. The country's affairs can't be taken lightly, so isn't it only right for the old man to reconsider? Yuanchao, you're right. I'll talk to the elders later. Alright, let's stop here. Don't throw a tantrum. We still have business to talk about later. There are still many details that we haven't settled on for the red-blue military drill in a few days. Chen Guang was really disgusted by this person. After saying all the ugly words, he turned around and talked about business with you. He didn't know what others thought of him, but he really couldn't stand it. Mr. Chao, great minds think alike. No bears think alike. I also feel that I'm not suitable. Otherwise, who do you think is more suitable to be the bureau chief? I'm really not interested in accompanying you. It's boring, disgusting, ugly, and dirty. He finally broke free from Jiang Yuanchao's arm and said, Uncle Jiang, don't worry about me. You guys talk. I'm leaving. Seeing that Chen Guang still wanted to leave after cursing, Chao Jingming felt a little unhappy. The reason why the old patriarchs got Secretary Chu to bring Chen Guang over was to integrate him into their circle. If this matter were to spread out, others might even think that he was the one who forced Chen Guang to leave. Little Chen, what did I say to you just now? Where did your temper come from? Don't you have any respect for your teacher? I'm trying to reason things out with you for your own good. Yet, you're throwing a tantrum and walking away at the slightest provocation. What is this? I'll pretend that I didn't hear you calling me a coward. And I'll tolerate you calling me disgusting, ugly, and dirty. It's all because you're young, but don't go too far, right? Chao Jingming still had a very calm expression on his face, as if he was really letting Chen Guang have his way. In this way, if Chen Guang really left, no one would say anything wrong with him. Exactly. You have no respect for your elders. That person from the Ministry of Finance started to show off again. Chen Guang almost laughed out loud. Standing at the entrance of the small courtyard, he turned around to look at the group of people who were behaving like monsters and snakes. He then nodded at Jiang Yuanchao and Wu Shan and suddenly grinned. I say, everyone, don't you all feel tired living like this? You're always so secretive and deceitful. Just thinking about it makes my hair stand on end. I really can't live another day like you. You think you're surrounded by a treasure trove of feng shui, and think that I have to stick to you wholeheartedly. But in my opinion, you, the two of you, stink to the heavens. The two of you have turned the entire courtyard into a cesspool. He pointed at Chao Jingming, and that person from the Ministry of Finance, and said straightforwardly. After that, he turned around and left without a moment's hesitation. Did he really not understand what his words and actions meant? No, of course he understood. If it was not a big deal, it could be said that he could bear with it for a while, and it would not cost him anything. To him, this was not difficult at all because of his superb acting skills. But ever since he realized what the elders were thinking, he really did not want to stay here anymore. He never thought that he could be a politician. Today's experience in less than an hour made him even more certain of his thoughts. Yes, I can do my best to cooperate with you all and act better than all of you. But I don't want to. I'd rather die than live like this. His act of throwing a tantrum in front of everyone seemed childish and impulsive, but in fact, he was deliberately throwing the difficult problem back to the elders. He was deliberately telling them, you guys better save it, I'm really not cut out for this. Alright, he was preparing to quit. This is just a small matter, And you guys are already making me so disgusted that I can't even eat. If I have to deal with you all every day, won't I go crazy? A good sentence, but he could change it up in a variety of ways. If it was a simple matter, he would not talk to you properly, but he would sneakily pull out a small knife from his back and stab you in the ass while talking. Also, the same words that could be found in the Xinhua dictionary were combined to form a phrase in their mouths. When used by them, they all had different meanings and purposes. Chen Guang understood every word that Chao Jingming and the person from the finance department said, but it was precisely because he understood everything that he felt especially disgusted. So he really flipped the table and left. The old man was not going to play with you all anymore. It would be best if the elders really think that I'm not reliable. When one's matter is over, I can really quit. Otherwise, I won't even be able to resign. And I won't even be able to cry. I can also scold people at the same time. The person I scolded just now should not be an ordinary person. For some reason, I feel a little smug and a little ripple in my heart. Later on, I can boast to Brother Bai Hua for 10 years. Even if I gave them 10,000 guts, they would not dare to do it. That's right. Chatting with them is called chatting. Chatting with these people is like fighting with bayonets. Every stab will see blood. It is boring and tiring. This guy. Chao Jingming's face was swept clean. Finally, he could not laugh anymore. His face was livid for a few seconds before he suddenly flung his sleeves and turned to leave. This was the first time he had been scolded so badly by a junior. But now, he really could not do anything to Chen Guang, the director of the Guangding General Administration. No matter how angry he was, it was useless. When he angrily returned to his own people, he finally could not control his temper and said angrily, "This little bastard really doesn't know any etiquette. I really don't know what the elders are thinking. How can they let this kind of person sit in that position?" The person next to him came up and asked, "Brother Chao, what position is it?" Chao Jingming looked at him angrily. "Don't ask what you're not supposed to ask." Fine. But no matter what, he is too favored. If the elders spoil him like this, there will be problems. Isn't that right? How old is he? He is always doing things on the internet, and his personal life is not clean either. He doesn't even know that the Jin family's elder. Sure, you can't talk about this. You can't mention it. It will cause a commotion. Fine, let's not talk about it. Anyway, I don't think he is qualified to come to our meeting today. Even young Master Bai is not here, is he? Chao Jingming looked at the group of people talking and gradually felt comfortable. He thought to himself, when the time is right, I will find a way to get him out. That position is too important. If it is not handled well, there will be a river of blood. To deal with an inner force martial artist, one must be smooth and slick. No matter what, it is not a hothead like Chen Guang who throws a tantrum. As for the possibility that Chen Guang might bear a grudge against him, Chao Jingming did not care. He was not a pushover. If he did not fight for these things, then what was the point of fighting for them? That was an important position to replace in the Special Affairs Bureau. Whoever was in power would be able to influence the political situation in the future. It was so important that it was worth a gamble. On the other hand, Wu Shan and Jiang Yuanchao were talking in a low voice in a corner. They were not as troubled as Chen Guang had imagined. Both of them looked calm, but there was a hint of joy in their whispers. "This kid is really smart," Jiang Yuanchao said. Wu Shan nodded. Indeed. In an instant, he made a prompt decision and saw through the core of the problem. His brain works really fast. If my youngest son had 1/10 of his ability, I wouldn't have such a headache. That daughter of mine, Sai, let's not talk about her. What's wrong? Jiang Yuanchao asked curiously. Wu Shan shook his head. Let's not talk about my daughter. Chen Guang might seem to be behaving arrogantly today, leaving the impression that he's a hothead. If it wasn't for me personally witnessing how he flipped Su Lijing upside down, and how he forced Su Lijing into a dead end with just a few words, I would have nearly been fooled by him as well. With just a few words, he drew a clear line between Chao Jingming and those people in the finance department the first time we met. He also left us behind on the surface, but in fact, he was secretly on our side. What an amazing kid. The younger generation will surpass us in time. He will definitely become a great person. Jiang Yuanchao concluded. Wu Shan shook his head slightly. No, he is already a great person. In fact, if Wu Tong was here, she might have blushed at Wu Shan's words because she knew that Chen Guang was a great person. She did not know if he was a great person, but she was sure that he was a great person. When Chen Guang went out, he bumped into Secretary Chu, who seemed to be taking a stroll outside and waiting for instructions. Hey, Xiaochen, why are you out so soon? Chen Guang waved his hand in distress. I can't stay here anymore. This is such a lousy place. I can't even talk to people in circles. It's so annoying. Why? You don't like it? Secretary Chu smiled as he sized him up. Chen Guang nodded. Not only do I not like it, I hate it. Oh right, Uncle Chu, tomorrow is the military drill, right? Can you arrange a place for me to rest? I need to find a place to hide myself. These things in the industry are really not my forte. Secretary Chu nodded. Sure. Oh right. Bai Hua and Lin Jingwei are having dinner together tonight. Do you want to go? Chen Guang was amused. That's good. I should chat with them. It's disgusting. After he agreed, he felt a little regretful. Bai Hua wouldn't be so bored as to mention Chen Yu every time they met, right? It shouldn't be that boring, right? Chen Guang, when are you going to fulfill the promise you made last time? F***CK, this guy is really that bored. Sitting at the dining table, Chen Guang looked at Bai Hua bitterly. That's right. He didn't know when it started, but he was sitting in the middle with Lin Jingwei, and Bai Hua on his left and right. Xiao Linzi also poked her head over. Brother Guang, you are now CEO Chen, the CEO of such a big company. You have to keep your word. Chen Guang silently turned his head. He felt that his grandson's smile was really cheap and meaningful, but in the end, he wasn't good enough to completely read a person's mind. Although there were thousands of doubts in his heart, he still didn't know what Lin Jingwei was showing off about. Chen Guang put down his chopsticks and sighed. Brother Bai Hua, it's not that I want to scold you. Okay, I know. Don't worry. I was just joking with you. I know you are a man of your word. Don't worry, I'm not worried at all. If this has caused you trouble, I apologize. Bai Hua interrupted Chen Guang. Chen Guang's mouth was wide open. He wanted to strangle this guy to death. After 3 rounds of drinking, Shen Yuliang, who hadn't dared to come up to the dining table to talk, finally mustered the courage to come up to him. Holding a glass, he cautiously said, Brother Chen Guang, do you want a drink? Chen Guang looked up at this guy. Although last time wasn't very pleasant, it wasn't a big deal. Someone had taken the initiative to express goodwill. And if he didn't accept it, he would seem too narrow-minded. Fine, I'm narrow-minded. But today, I'll be generous and give Shen Yuliang a chance. He picked up his glass, stood up, and clinked it with Shen Yuliang. Then he quickly tilted his head back and downed it. You're too polite. I'll drink first as a sign of respect. Shen Yuliang was overjoyed and followed suit. The other people at the table who had been secretly paying attention to the two of them secretly heaved a sigh of relief. In fact, as long as they talked to him nicely, he was really easier to deal with than they had imagined. Shen Yuliang silently turned his face away and wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes. In fact, he had almost been ostracized these days. It had been really hard for him. Originally, he didn't have a place at the table, but Lin Jingwei had called him, so he dared to come. Now that they had finally buried the hatchet, he could be considered to have crossed this hurdle. Brother Chen Guang, I'm actually also a fan of the Almighty Superman, and I also play Dota Tower. You have more than 4,000 points in the stairway competition. I watched the whole process of your previous competition, and it really made my eyes brim with tears. Another glass? No problem. Let's queue together when we're free. I'll bring you along to show off and fly. Chen Guang found Shen Yuliang much more pleasing to the eye. People who could like Dota Tower couldn't be that bad. Alright, those who liked to play Dota Tower were also good people. The two of them drank another glass. I won't find excuses for this last glass. This is my self-punishment. Brother Chen Guang, I'm sorry. What happened before was my fault. Just as Chen Guang finished drinking, Shen Yuliang on the other side quickly poured himself a third glass. This time, it was in place, really in place. It's okay. Let bygones be bygones. I'll drink a glass too. Although Shen Yuliang was punishing himself, Chen Guang didn't make things difficult for him and drank a third glass. Actually, as long as others gave him face, he didn't even need to lower his voice. Everyone could be like that and talk nicely. Chen Guang wasn't a hedgehog with all its hair standing on end. He also didn't like to cause trouble or make enemies. Now that they had met and smiled, and 3 glasses of wine to resolve their grudges, it could also be considered as putting an end to the previous mess. Shen Yuliang was able to appear at this table because he had grown up with Lin Jingwei and Bai Hua. It was just that he thought too highly of himself previously, and the jealousy in his brain couldn't be turned around, so he caused some trouble. The atmosphere at the table eased up and instantly became lively. Everyone drank with each other, and there was no longer any ill feelings or tension. As the wine immortal of the Sea of Moments, Chen Guang naturally didn't reject anyone. With just you bunch of small fries, you want to defeat me? You think I can't drink you to death? In the end, this table of wine really helped him negotiate a lot of big things. Chapter 655. Shen Yuliang was one of the major shareholders behind the scenes, and he was trying to mend their relationship. Chen Guang was China's #1 internet celebrity, and he used to be a chauffeur for the popular internet company. He had thousands of orders, and he wasn't just putting on an act. He was actually driving a sports car himself. If the internet company needed to find a spokesperson, there was no better candidate than Chen Guang. Now that the internet company had just acquired a competitor, it was in the limelight. Shen Yuliang wanted to take advantage of the situation, and it was just right to invite a heavyweight spokesperson. When it was about time, Shen Yuliang used the alcohol to boost his courage and suggested to invite Chen Guang to be the spokesperson for the leading internet company in the country. Chen Guang didn't even hear the endorsement fee that Shen Yuliang threw at him, and he immediately agreed. It wasn't a big deal anyway. Now that the two of them had taken the lead, the rest followed suit. Chen Guang couldn't remember how many endorsement contracts he had agreed to today. Anyway, he only had one request, and that was not to do too many things. He could use the rights to his portrait, but he had to make sure he looked handsome. That's it. It wasn't that he couldn't shoot a commercial, but it couldn't be too troublesome. The female lead also had to be. Considering that Jean Shirue was also in the industry, he stopped himself. Anyway, don't make me run all over the place. Do whatever you can to save me trouble. Everything else is negotiable. He wasn't worried that these people would cheat him on the endorsement fee. They wouldn't dare to. They were all in the same industry now, and they would see each other all the time. There was no need for them to fight over money. Today, they had taken the initiative to bring it up a step further. There was no need to be so hesitant when it came to matters of mutual consent. Although everyone was a little tipsy, everyone's mind was as clear as snow. In the end, even Bai Hua was a little eager. He pulled Lin Jingwei and asked, "Jingwei, what do you think Tianjin Energy needs to endorse?" Lin Jingwei rolled his eyes. "You can try to get him to endorse your newly developed solar energy generator set." "Yes, that's right. It's the one with the highest conversion rate in the world. This endorsement is guaranteed to be effective. Brother Guang also has the word light in his name. It's so fitting." In the end, Bai Hua endured it, afraid that he would make a fool of himself. While Chen Guang was happily eating and drinking at the table, his 3 right-hand men of Tianguang brokerage were sitting in a hotel room frowning. "Boss Chen's mission is so difficult. I have no clue." Fang Tianyu lit another cigarette. This was the second pack of cigarettes he had ordered tonight. Yu Hong's eyebrows were also tightly knitted together. He did not smoke, and Fang Tianyu's second-hand smoke made him dizzy. The direction that Boss Chen mentioned is indeed a bit too broad. As for how to implement it specifically, I really can't think of it. Pencil sharpening, microcarving. How were they going to promote it? Besides, who would be interested in sharpening pencils? I can't even find a clue to promote it. It's not easy to find someone to hype it up. Even if the major media picked up on the news, it would be useless. We can't possibly get someone to print flyers saying that the almighty Superman Chen Guang is the best sharpener in the world and distribute it everywhere. Lu Xiaoyang was wearing a mask and sunglasses. He could not help it. He was also suffering from the smoke. Damn old you. Why are you crying? Feng Tianyu was also shocked. He reached out his hand and patted Yu Hong's shoulder. Old you, don't be sad. Let's think of a way together. Coincidentally, the finger that Feng Tianyu extended was the finger that was holding the cigarette. Yu Hong's tears flowed down. Crying. He really cried. A super professional was actually troubled by Boss Chen's order. This was a tragedy. Old Feng, can you extinguish your cigarette? If you continue to smoke me for a while, not only will I cry, I will also go blind. Yu Hong had endured for a whole night, and finally said this. Only then did Feng Tianyu react. And he quickly stubbed out his cigarette. Sai, what should we do? Why don't I try to find some people to send out some hydrology spear scripts? After Feng Tianyu cleaned up, Lu Xiaoyang said. It's not that it's impossible, but I always feel that this doesn't seem to be of any substantial help to the development of the company. Yu Hong sighed. Feng Tianyu sighed as well. Chief Tang has really given us a big problem. How are we going to help Chief Chen get this company up? Sigh. Pa. He lit another cigarette. Lu Xiaoyang picked up his teacup and took a sip. A stream of tea shot out from his mouth and extinguished Feng Tianyu's cigarette. Old Feng, old you is going blind. Buttface, you little b asterisk tch. Feng Tianyu muttered to himself. F asterisk ck. How do you know my name is Buttface? Chief Chen said so. Yu Hong added. He spoke to me in English just now. President Chen's spoken English is really good. His pronunciation is perfect, his pronunciation is clear, and his thinking is quick. He said your English name is Three Dog Boy. Lu Xiaoyang. Sigh, I entrusted this to the wrong person. The three of them started to feel melancholy again. They really didn't know where the hope in life lay. On the other hand, Chen Guang had a comfortable meal. All the injuries he suffered in the dilapidated courtyard in the afternoon were healed. When the banquet finally ended, it was around 10 p.m. Lin Jingwei wanted to ask Chen Guang to stay at his house, but Chen Guang had to go to the military exercise with a group of people the next morning. Lin Jingwei wasn't qualified to attend, so Chen Guang took a private car back. Lin Jingwei laughed at him. You're flying faster than me, driving a direct train. Chen Guang patted his shoulder. Save it. Can't you see that I'm having a headache now? Actually, I can see it. Otherwise, why do you think I went to the 5 capitals to study? Isn't it because I want to hide further away? Chen Guang sighed. We're all in the same boat. Lin Jingwei also sighed. That's why we became gay friends in this life. Scram! When Chen Guang stayed in the Shishan guest house arranged by Secretary Chu, Chen Guang sobered up a little. He started to take out the business cards he just received and threw them on the bed. Then, he called Lu Xiaoyang. Compared to Yu Hong and the rest that Tang Xiaokai sent over, Chen Guang trusted Lu Xiaoyang more. Although he hadn't interacted with Lu Xiaoyang for a long time, they've watched a film together. With Chen Guang's confidence in acting, he could tell that Lu Xiaoyang was a reliable person despite coming from 8 Weekly. Wait everyone. Chief Chen is calling me. Don't tell me there's a new order at this time? Lu Xiaoyang stood up from his chair, pulled off his mask and said excitedly. Yu Hong and Feng Tianyu looked up at him and let out a long sigh. Chief Chen is finally enlightened. He also knows that this matter is not reliable, right? That's right. It's good to know one's mistakes and correct them. Chief Chen is talented. Although he was a little young and his train of thought was a little too wild, extraordinary people did extraordinary things. Just when everyone was at their wits' end, he used an unknown method to make Lu Chao submit to him. He sold 8 copies of the magazine for $1 and finally averted a great crisis. From the looks of it, he was indeed a talented general. Lu Xiaoyang answered the phone. Chief Chen, what can I do for you? It was past 11 o'clock at night, which was quite late. A call at this time must be an important decision. Yu Hong and Feng Tianyu held their breaths and hoped that he would take back his decision. Chen Guang shook his head and picked up a business card. Then he said, Buttface, do you have a pen and paper with you? I'll read out a name, and you write down a name and phone number. Tomorrow, people from these companies will contact you one after another. Then, you three can discuss and communicate with each other. Do it properly for me. Lu Xiaoyang was surprised. What? What's the matter? Many companies? Chen Guang replied. Yes, endorsement contracts with many companies. Endorsement contracts? Chief Chen, didn't you say that you wouldn't accept them? Lu Xiaoyang repeated deliberately, and then looked at the other two with a sad face. The other two shook their heads and sighed. Alas, there is no end to the hard times. Chen Guang smiled. I don't want to trouble you, and I don't want you to run back and forth just to sign a contract, right? Look at other endorsers, who always work for other people's commercial activities, and shoot an advertisement for me. Isn't it troublesome? But this time is different. They are all my friends, and we are helping each other. It's like giving money to me. I don't have to do anything. Anyway, you don't need to care about the price when you negotiate with others. You just need to figure out the procedure and communicate with each other. Sign the contracts if they don't do anything stupid. Okay. Comrade Xiao Lu didn't expect what kind of fright he would receive later. He thought that the so-called friend Chen Guang was referring to was probably some second-generation rich second-generation boss of a small rundown company who would casually make a decision for him. Then I'll start reading the names. Okay, Chief Chen. I've prepared the pen and paper. Online company. What? The first name made Lu Xiaoyang dizzy. He exclaimed in surprise. Of course, he knew about this online company, which had just merged with the leading car-hailing company from the United States. It was the new domestic giant of online car-hailing. It had more than 90% of the national market share and was valued at more than $40 billion. How could such a big company be a small one? Yu Hong and Fang Tianyu, who were watching Lu Xiaoyang make the phone call, felt very uncomfortable. Isn't it an endorsement contract? But face, do you have to be like this? Can't you just let us watch you make the phone call? What the F***CK? Don't you know about online? The phone number is. Chen Guang ignored him. He just wanted to quickly finish talking about this so he could sleep. He had drunk a little too much. Tomorrow morning, he had to rush to some unknown military base. He had to sleep early. Okay, Chief Chen, please continue. 386 Heavy Industries. That's right. It's the 386 Heavy Industries that you know. They have a new product. What is it called? It's a handheld pile driver. They want me to endorse it. 386 Heavy Industries was one of the leading companies in the country. It was rumored that it had a very powerful background. Lu Xiaoyang felt that his brain was going to freeze. Chief Chen, did you eat chicken blood today? Where the hell did you get these contracts from? What did you tell them? How much blood and tears did you have to pay to get in touch with the people in charge of these companies? By the way, why did you, an internet celebrity, endorse a pile driver? Forget it. Don't worry about the details. Old you and old Fong. Don't ask me why I am kneeling on the floor to answer the phone. Finally, after a few minutes, Chen Guang finished reading all the business cards. As for the endorsement amount, he really didn't remember it. There were more than 20 people at the table, and more than 10 of them had come together to talk about this and that. There were too many numbers. Besides, he had drunk a lot, so it would be strange for him to remember. On the other side, Yu Hong and Fang Tianyu couldn't sit still anymore. Lu Xiaoyang was kneeling by the tea table, writing the company name and the contact number of the person in charge. Does this mean that Chief Chen has signed more than 10 endorsement contracts from this morning to this afternoon? And all of them are these companies? Fang Tianyu couldn't believe it. Yu Hong wasn't much better. It wasn't that he hadn't seen geniuses doing business before. After all, he had been with Tang Xiaokai for many years. Tang Xiaokai could also be regarded as a representative of the young talents who had risen at the speed of light in recent years. He was also quite famous in the world. But Yu Hong really hadn't seen anyone who could run a company like Chen Guang. He was completely unreasonable and had no tricks at all. Obviously, everyone was disheartened at the beginning and didn't know if they could survive tomorrow. In the end, he turned around and slapped himself in the face. He had done such a mass endorsement thing. What kind of companies were these? What kind of endorsements? Thinking about the second-tier shampoo, third-tier keyboard and mouse, third-tier laptop. Oh yes, and the red cucumber mobile phone. which was the kind of popular endorsement model of the 1,000 yuan mobile phone. It was on a completely different level from Chief Chen's, okay? All of them were the giants of the industry. Online taxi booking, alright, let's not talk about this. I heard that Chief Chen used to run an online taxi. It was very suitable and tailor-made. The pile driver of the 386 heavy industry started to make trouble. The facial mask of the luxury skincare brand of Tiange Dream Group. What? The electronically synthesized voice of AD? He remembered that when he was driving in the future, Chen Guang's voice would be heard from the GPS. Turn left at the intersection ahead. Turn left, turn left, turn left again. Hello, dear driver. I was just talking nonsense. Come and hit me. Yu Hong threw this scary thought out. What drove him crazy was that there was a fashion brand that even had Chen Guang as their spokesperson. If he didn't remember incorrectly, that brand specialized in the market of young girls, and most of their clothing was for young girls. So they're getting their Mr. Chen to be their spokesperson. Although you are also the industry leader, isn't your taste a little too heavy? With the above comparison, this investment company that mainly focused on the hotel business was too harmonious. Everyone, what should we do about this? Should we accept all the contracts that Chief Chen asked us to accept? Lu Xiaoyang asked anxiously. Yu Hong and Fang Tianyu looked at each other. Since these were all endorsement contracts arranged by Chief Chen, how could they not accept them? Accept all of them. Of course, the three of them quickly understood on the second day that they had no reason to reject these contracts. Chen Guang had asked them to squander money, but only one day had passed, and they had not spent a single cent, but they had earned a whole basket of endorsement contracts. Yet, these people's asking prices were so high that it was impossible to reject them. Yu Hong felt that Chen Guang could even accept the 20 million a year contract, let alone the clothes for young girls. Even if it was baby diapers, he would accept it. Also, the other party was really enthusiastic, okay? He was still in the middle of negotiating the contracts, and the other companies actually came to him on their own. The ones who came were all the CEOs, and not just in name only. Although these CEOs were very young, they seemed to have a lot of say in their respective companies. If they said they wanted to, they would do it without any hesitation. In one morning, a total of 12 contracts were negotiated. All the endorsement fees added up to 150 million a year. On average, each of them earned more than 10 million a year. Looking at the conditions of these people, how was this a F***king endorsement? This was obviously giving away money, okay? Our Chief Chen was just an internet celebrity, not a world-renowned Oscar winner. At noon, the three of them walked out of the company's headquarters and looked at each other. Their worldview was still collapsing. I'm starting to doubt my life, Lu Xiaoyang said. Yu Hong nodded. Maybe we can't keep up with Chief Chen's pace and thinking. Fang Tianyu felt very sad. He had not even warmed his position as the marketing manager, and he had not even understood the situation. But Chief Chen had already done all his work. Even Tang Xiaokai, who was far away overseas, could not sit still, let alone the three of them. He had taken out the money from the investment in Tianguang Brokerage Company. He had only followed the instructions from the higher-ups to let Chen Guang squander as much as he wanted. Why was the money getting squandered so much? However, Tang Xiaokai was not someone who did not know what was good for him. It belonged to whoever it belonged to. Although Tianguang Brokerage Company had 50% of his shares, the endorsement fees were all negotiated by Chen Guang himself. To put it bluntly, even without Tianguang Brokerage, the money would still be in Chen Guang's pocket. Although Tang Xiaokai did things in a Westerner's way overseas, he was also proficient in the ways of the world in China. This money could not be transferred into the company's account with a clear conscience, and half of it was out of thin air. Tang Xiaokai did not lack this bit of money. More importantly, even if Chen Guang did not say that he did not care, he would not take advantage of this. Tianguang Brokerage Company was a task assigned by the higher-ups. If he really relied on this to earn money, it would be too troublesome. Yu Hong, you have to remember that you are now under Tianguang Brokerage Company. You have to be responsible for all the shareholders of Tianguang Brokerage Company, and you are no longer a subordinate of my Tang Jie Foundation. You know how to handle this matter, right? I will send someone from the Tang Jie Foundation over. If Chen Guang has no other arrangements for this endorsement fee, treat it as financing into the company. The shares will fluctuate according to the changes in the funds. In short, you must make Chen Guang satisfied and approve of it. Tang Xiaokai instructed. Yu Hong was clear. Actually, when Chen Guang chose to call Lu Xiaoyang first to tell him about this matter, he understood everything. Even until now, he had not understood Chen Guang's style of doing things, nor did he know what Tianguang Brokerage Company would be like in the future. However, Yu Hong felt that it was time for him to have a clear position in his heart. Alright, not to mention anything else, just based on his terrifying ability to earn money, this company still had to be run. Chen Guang did not have the time to care about the matters outside. After hiding for many days, the individual military exercise that the old men had been secretly preparing for finally began on this day. It was very abrupt, and many people did not even have the time to react. They might have been summoned to Beijing for various reasons, and were supposed to attend this, or that important meeting today. However, when they opened their eyes, they received this sudden news. They were startled and sleepy. After a simple tidying up, they sat in the special car that came to pick them up. The location of the individual military exercise this time was not Shun's special training camp, but a top-secret base that was about 100 kilometers north of Beijing. Around morning, from the West Mountain Villa district of Beijing to the base, more than 100 kilometers of the road was completely cordoned off. The long motorcade drove out of Beijing in the morning fog, and the air was filled with a cold and murderous aura. The car that Chen Guang was sitting in was about in the middle of the motorcade. In front of him were the cars of those old men, and in the motorcade were the current leaders of the major provinces in the country. Chen Guang even vaguely saw Secretary Ma of the Dachuan province squeezing into the crowd and climbing into a minibus behind him. In a sense, the seat he was sitting in was more important than Secretary Ma's seat, which made him feel like he was sitting on pins and needles. Some of the internal strength martial artists who had received the news in advance, after careful consideration, decided to stand up and participate in this exercise, while some declined politely and preferred to continue hiding in the dark. At this time, there were benefits to standing up. Once the old men finally won and gained the upper hand, they could participate in this military exercise as defectors. Needless to say, the benefits in the future would be obvious. However, if they lost, it might be difficult for them to establish a foothold in Jianghu. If they didn't stand up, the benefits in the future might be less, but they would not be wiped out. Of course, the other people who had received invitations only to see this country, the new weapon, that was the pinnacle of this era. In reality, the sects that were going to be beaten down had sent people over. No one wanted to die without knowing why. More or less, someone had to be sent over to see what the new weapon, that could make those old men so courageous, looked like. Next, whether they should repeat what they had done before, and use the high and mighty methods that they were so proud of to beat the tiger in the mountain, or put away their former arrogance and lower their noble heads. They had to think carefully. The inheritance of the sects was very important. Unless it was absolutely necessary, no one was willing to fight to the death. Of course, there would definitely be people who had secretly defected and reached an agreement, but on the surface, they were still mixed in with the other forces that had been invited to watch the ceremony, witnessing the current leaders flaunting their power and being beaten down together with the others. Between you and me, who was a friend and who was a foe, it all depended on a single thought. Now, everyone was most curious and concerned about who the representatives of the 3 aristocratic families, 8 sects and 27 sects in the Jianghu would send, and how these people would express their stance. Now the conflict between the One Family, Poison Sect, and Dark Sect had completely erupted. It was said that the One Family sect leader would be there personally. If Poison Sect and Dark Sect came as well, who knew what would happen when the two forces met? Why? Did Ouyang Tianqing say that he's not coming? In the car in the middle, an old man mumbled softly. This guy is too powerful. Does he think that we can't do anything to him if he doesn't come? Jiang Ye's grandfather said angrily. However, old Master Jean shook his head slightly. If it were me, I wouldn't come either. Indeed, Ouyang Tianxing has been the director of the Special Affairs Bureau for many years. He knows how we do things. He knows that since we're going to expose this matter, we must have a plan. At the very least, we have the determination and ability to perish together. He definitely won't dare to come. The old man in the middle had a penetrating gleam in his eyes. What about now? Another old man asked. It doesn't matter if he comes or not. As long as everything goes according to plan for today's military exercise, we'll immediately start cutting the Special Affairs Bureau and make Ouyang Tianxing report to the capital. We have to spread the word that it's up to him whether he comes or not, and which side he'll lean towards. He's getting cocky at the wrong time, and he wants to be promoted. What a fool's dream. No, he's not being cocky. He's always been like this. It's our wishful thinking. Driving the wolf to devour the tiger is ultimately our wishful thinking. The wolf, the tiger, and the leopard are of the same origin. Only by strengthening ourselves is the foundation of a country. We're already strong enough now. However, we have to be prepared. Cornered dogs will always bite off a few pieces of meat from old bones like us. The old man's words were filled with determination. Let's do it. I, old Jiang, am not afraid of anyone. That's right. I may be old, but I dare to go into battle with my sword. Old leaders, I, old Tan, am a messenger, Tan Zhaohua said weakly. F***CKU. Chapter 656. By the time Chen Guang alighted from the car, the atmosphere was a little tense. Jiang Yuanchao, whom he had met the day before, had been holding Chen Guang's arm the whole time. Amongst the crowd, Chen Guang saw a few people that he met yesterday, such as Chao Shiming and a few others. However, it was a pity that he didn't see Wu Shan. It seemed that Wu Shan's rank wasn't high enough to participate in today's drill. That Uncle Jiang Jin Shiyue's father? Chen Guang asked in a small voice. Jiang Yuanchao chuckled. You are afraid of meeting your father-in-law? Do you even have times when you are afraid? Aren't you always fearless? Chen Guang quickly shook his head. No, I am very timid. Alright, don't worry. Old Jean is overseas on a state visit, and won't be back for a while. You won't be able to see him today. Chen Guang heaved a sigh of relief. Thank goodness, thank goodness. Seeing him like this, Jiang Yuanchao was excited again. Little Chen. Uncle Jiang. What do you think of Uncle Jiang? Do you feel like old friends at first sight? Jiang Yuanchao chuckled, rubbing his big bald head as he spoke. Chen Guang also rubbed his head. I do feel like old friends at first sight. Both of us are very bright. You must have interacted with the Jean family many times. Do you think they are all boring? They are very rigid. Although they are very friendly with you, they have to be polite to you on the surface. That's not fun at all. Look at my Jiang family, they are not like that. My daughter has also learned to be like us. How about it? Reconsider? Solomon is more suitable for you than Shiyue. Chen Guang's eyes widened. Uncle Jiang, you and your father are really the same. Both of you learned your poaching skills from the same source. Also, I really can't tell you that Jiang Yage and I are much more advanced than Jin Shiyue. You really don't need to poach me. I'm with Jiang Yage right now. However, the conversation between the two did not last long. The group entered the base and headed straight for the building. Before the military exercise officially began, there would be a mobilization meeting. The elders would probably reveal their trump cards at the mobilization meeting. Sitting in the massive conference room, Chen Guang sighed in his heart as he watched people of all shapes and sizes coming in one after another. They were all led by the staff to their seats. Chen Guang couldn't help but sigh in his heart that all sorts of people were here. Compared to most of the people present, Chen Guang was already one of the people who had a good understanding of inner strength martial artists. But today he still learned a lot. Among the people who walked in, there was an old man dressed like a Taoist priest, a gloomy man who was missing an arm or a leg, and a beautiful woman wearing a floral dress who looked young, but was addressed as Granny. In the crowd, a nun holding a sword and a beautiful middle-aged woman in a flowery dress secretly glanced at Chen Guang from time to time. Chen Guang did not pay much attention to them. Instead, He tried to raise his head and remember every strange person he saw today. Is that Chen Guang? The beautiful middle-aged woman sat in the crowd and asked the nun beside her. Yes, it's him. The nun sneered. He looks like a young talent, but it's a little strange. His root bone is very strange. I don't know if it's because I'm too far away, or if I'm wrong. The beautiful middle-aged woman squinted her eyes, trying to see through Chen Guang in the distance, but she felt that he was unfathomable and unpredictable. You don't have to look. His root bone is very strange. My disciple once told me that the strange appearance of his body is rare in 100 years, no, maybe 1,000 years. It's not something that you and I can figure out. The voice of the nun holding the sword revealed a trace of helplessness and unwillingness, but perhaps a little complacent. So powerful, even more powerful than the girl from the Wen family? The beautiful middle-aged woman exclaimed. That's not necessarily true. Who would have thought that the girl from the Wen family could reach the level of Wenzong so quickly? Root bone is only one of the talents, but the power of understanding is also indispensable. The nun holding the sword had thought it through. Just like our disciples, their root bone and power of understanding are the best. Otherwise, how could they reach the peak of bone force at such a young age? That's right. It's the fortune of the Thousand Flowers Valley and the Thousand Despair sect to have Xiao Miao and Xiao Qin. But I hope we don't make a wrong decision this time. If we don't give it our all, that mistering will come to us sooner or later. By then, we won't have any other choice. Chen Guang could not see through these people's internal force cultivation. He could only judge their strength from the aura they exuded when they walked. Well, he was just guessing. Most of them were not as powerful as Xan Qin and Wu Miaowan, but there were some who were more powerful than the two Lolis. These are all powerful people, Jiang Yuanchao said with a sigh, gritting his teeth. Chen Guang was puzzled. Uncle Jiang, you seem to hate them a lot? Jiang Yuanchao shook his head then nodded. I don't like them very much. You know about the incident back then, right? Many people saw the marks left behind by these powerful people in their dreams. They were so shocked that they broke out in cold sweat. Chen Guang nodded. I know. My father and I became bald because of them. At that time, I was still young, and when I woke up, my hair was gone. I don't know what kind of potion I gave someone, but in short, my hair never grew back. So that's the reason? But I think it's pretty good now. Aren't you bald too? Don't you think that every morning when you wake up, others have to scrub their hair with shampoo, while you wash your face with a handkerchief and wash your hair clean? It's very comfortable. It saves time and energy. There's some truth to it. So fortune follows misfortune, and misfortune hides blessings. Nothing in this world is absolute. From now on, we grandpa and grandchild shall happily go bald together. I heard that you have a fan club that is also made up of bald people. I have a good impression of them. You should introduce them to them when you have time. Chen Guang was impressed by Jiang Yuanchao's twisted logic in life. Besides, he even dragged himself into it. Who wants to be with you grandchild and grandchild for 3 lifetimes? Oh right, I heard that a big shot among the inner force martial artists will be coming today. Why haven't I seen him yet? Chen Guang shrugged. How would I know? Aren't you on good terms with him? Why didn't he inform you in advance? How do you all know that I'm on good terms with Wenwen? This is a core secret, an important piece of information. When your Guangding General Headquarters grows and things settle down, we have to make a solemn promise to all the major sects that we will not easily use the big killing weapon on their young masters. Especially if the young master is a female, they have to sign it. Uncle, that's not right. Then why did you drag Jiang Yage into this? I'm pushing my daughter into a pit of fire. Only Solomon can suppress the evil spirit in you. You don't understand. Our family is born to sacrifice ourselves for the country and the people to help us. All right, you win. Sai, why isn't the Wen clan leader here yet? If she doesn't come today, we won't be able to handle today's matter properly. You should give her a call and ask. I'm really worried. As the two chatted, Old Man Tan walked over. Chen Guang, give the Wen clan leader a call. We won't feel at ease if we don't have a plan. Seeing their sincere expressions, Chen Guang had no choice but to take out his phone. Then I'll call? Yes. While Chen Guang was making the call, Old Man Tan and Jiang Yuanchao were chatting. I heard that although the Wen clan leader is young, she's already a grandmaster. She's been famous for a long time, but I've never seen her in person. I really want to know how powerful she is. Tan Zhaohua sighed. Jiang Yuanchao pinched his beard. She must have amazing martial arts skills. When she appears, all the martial artists have to bow their heads in submission. Or maybe she's walking on the leaves, rushing here from nowhere, kicking up sand and pebbles along the way. That's right. An expert naturally has the power of an expert. I heard before that the Wen clan leader is now a Wenzong. In the entire pugilistic world, she's at least one of the top few. Plus, she's so young, so she must be quite domineering. On the other side, Chen Guang had finished his call. He looked at the two men in silence. Gentlemen, Wen said she was stuck in a traffic jam. The roads were closed when we left the city. So many cars were stuck on the road. She left a little late and couldn't move. Huh. A grandmaster can be stuck in a traffic jam? Jiang Yuanchao and Tan Zhaohua were both dumbfounded. What else can she do? Grandmasters are also human, okay? Grandmasters can widen the road with their fists, right? Although they knew what he said made sense, the two men still felt like they were being cheated. Forget it, let's leave it at that. Since she promised to come today, she won't go back on her word. There's no point in us panicking. Chen Guang, get ready. We might need you to give a speech later. We've decided to announce the matter of the Guangding General Bureau today. Before Tan Zhaohua left, he dropped such a heavy bomb. Hearing those words, Chen Guang trembled in anger. What's wrong with the brains of you bunch of old men? It's such an important matter that you come up with it so easily. Why is it so tiring to do something for you? Look at the hundreds of people sitting in the hall. Which one of them isn't a big shot? Which one of them isn't in power? Which one of them isn't a well-known figure in the internal force community? You didn't even inform me in advance, didn't discuss it with me. And now you want me to give a speech? And announce the Guangding General Bureau in public? What a scam. Moreover, you should at least give me some time to prepare my speech. What if I get stuck on the stage? Wouldn't that be shameful to his grandmother's house? Even if I'm a genius, it's still very strenuous for me to suddenly be forced to do something beyond my capabilities. Little Chun, don't worry about it. How can you have everything under control when it comes to family and national affairs? Since Uncle Tan said it was a last-minute decision, then it must be what they said. They must have thought it through. Didn't we agree to do this secretly? You can carry me out after the special case department is more or less a figurehead. There's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. Jiang Yuanchao sighed. Chen Guang understood immediately. The Special Affairs Bureau must have gotten wind of the leak and started to fight back. If the person in power wanted to deal with an ordinary citizen, he might not even know how he died when he was lying in his coffin. But now, he had to deal with the Special Affairs Bureau. This was a huge organization that had been operating for more than a decade. It had extended its reach to all aspects of society, and its influence was spread across martial artists and ordinary people. It was too difficult to do it without anyone noticing. So the old men decided to throw the Guangding General Bureau out now, so that the martial artists in the audience have no choice but to take sides today? That should be it. That's why talents are so rare. It's precisely because not everything can be changed according to the will of the higher-ups that they need people like you to adapt to the situation. I have high hopes for you. Jiang Yuanchao patted Chen Guang's shoulder calmly. Chen Guang's face turned green. I have high hopes for your daughter. Since it was a meeting, it was necessary to speak to convey the spirit of the meeting. However, the speaker today was different from the rest. At least, in the hearts of ordinary people, this old man had not appeared in public for almost 20 years. However, he still looked hale and hearty at the moment. His words carried enormous weight. As long as he stood there, no one dared to belittle a word he said, even though he might not be able to truss a chicken due to his advanced age. Even if he was no longer in his position and did not seek for his position, his power had never dissipated. The young people sitting in the front row were all bound by an invisible thread and held in the hands of the old man. He spoke very slowly, but his words were clear. It was not a long speech. In less than an hour, He had described the biggest change in the country in the past 20 to 30 years. He did not use too many sharp words, nor did he deliberately promote military force. He only used one picture after another, and his calm narration to make everyone sitting below the stage understand one thing. Today's Huaxia was no longer the weak Huaxia of 30 years ago. The pace of technology was unstoppable. Manpower was limited, but science was endless. The emergence of the steam engine was not enough to pose a threat to martial artists. During World War I, crudely made tanks, guns, propeller planes, and mortars that relied on simple aiming devices were also not enough to pose a threat to martial artists. All the weapons from World War II to 30 years ago, although the development speed seemed to be rapid, even large-scale weapons such as nuclear bombs and hydrogen bombs were not enough to pose a threat to martial artists who were good at hiding. If you didn't even know where people were, how could you blow them up if they were scattered and mixed into a crowd? However, the explosion of integrated circuits and information technology had brought unprecedented changes to the entire human race and the world. In the past 30 years, from electron tubes and transistors to large-scale integrated circuits, then to silicon crystals, and then to modern technology with super-strong artificial intelligence learning ability, as well as all kinds of cutting-edge technology that was beyond the comprehension of ordinary people, it was completely incomparable to the past hundreds of years. Every year that passed, the computing power contained in the same square inch of silicon crystal structure would at least double. Although the old man on the stage didn't say these words clearly, he was clearly telling everyone that the times were different. In the past, we tolerated you for the sake of the overall situation, but it didn't mean that we approved of your behavior and privileges. If you still don't want to change, don't conform to the times, and still rely on the sharp swords in your hands to treat ordinary people like ants, then what awaits you will inevitably be destruction. I finished speaking next. The old man stood there and spoke for an hour without stopping, which was a huge burden on his body. His hands seemed to be uncontrollably trembling, or perhaps he couldn't suppress his excitement. How many times had he dreamed about it in the middle of the night? He finally stood here, in front of these martial artists, who could only look up to but not dare to fight, and said these things. Even if he died here today, he could go down to the underworld and face those martyrs with a clear conscience. He only had one worry, and that was why the head of the Wen family, who had clearly expressed his goodwill, still hadn't arrived. Although he wasn't afraid of death, some people in the venue couldn't die. Old man, why are you saying this to us? What do you want? Just say it. Don't be so weird. We have been living like this for thousands of years. Even the Qing dynasty emperor treated us with courtesy when he founded the country. Why do you have so many problems when it comes to you? Do you really think we're made of mud? Sure enough, someone was trying to make trouble. A strong man with a full beard slammed the table and stood up. He didn't seem to deliberately use any strength, but the table in front of him instantly exploded into pieces. Chen Guang turned his head and looked. This was an expert who was more powerful than Xianqin. That's right. Back then, the elders of my sect saw that you people fought against the foreign enemies and helped you a lot. Why do you think you've grown up and turned your back on us now? You're really an ingrate. Do you believe that I won't let your blood splash 5 steps away? The second person to slam the table and stand up was a middle-aged man who looked like a Taoist priest. That's right. If you're really that capable, why don't you ask that robot in your movie to come and fight me for 300 rounds? Let's see if its iron shell is harder, or if my palm is more powerful. Do you believe that I can kill all of you right now and walk back and forth here for 7 or 8 times? The sects that had communicated with the authorities beforehand were the minority. Most of the people were still arrogant and unruly. When someone took the lead, there were naturally others who followed suit. After a while, the crowd became more and more agitated, and the scene seemed to be gradually getting out of control. Even Jiang Yuanchao, who was sitting next to Chen Guang, began to frown. He pulled Chen Guang aside and said, I didn't expect these people to be so agitated just by looking at the material. The old man hasn't even said anything yet. Damn it. Chen Guang, if they really cause a ruckus later, leave quickly. There's a secret passage downstairs. The password is, "What about you, Uncle Jiang?" "I'm a soldier, I can't leave." This. Chen Guang was also a little surprised by this situation. He thought he had a good understanding of the inner force martial artists. After all, he had dealt with Wenwen, Xian Qin, Wu Miaowan, and even Long Dingtian from Dragon Gate Express many times. But now that he saw them, he realized that he had thought too highly of human nature. Even Chen Guang was surprised, and the old geezers weren't any better. They had miscalculated. They had really miscalculated. Not to mention the individual military drill later. Even a simple scientific lecture was enough to make these people go crazy. These people were really crazy, downright crazy. For the past decade, they had been spoiled by Ouyang Tianqing and his Special Affairs Bureau to the point that they had lost their minds. They were still too impatient. At least they should have waited for the Wen family's leader to arrive, so that the situation wouldn't go out of control. When the military drill was over, when they truly saw the pinnacle of modern weapons, they would no longer have the courage to smash the table and flip the table. They were now ignorant and fearless. In the crowd, the nun with the sword and the beautiful woman in colorful clothes also frowned. The beautiful woman in colorful clothes said, "These people have been lying on a mountain of gold and silver for too long. Don't they think too highly of themselves?" The nun with the sword nodded. After all, not everyone can see through it. After enjoying the privileges for so long, letting go of them is equivalent to breaking their limbs. Of course they can't bear to. How foolish. Look, even the blood cloth sect, one of the 8 major sects, is making a fuss. The beautiful woman in colorful clothes gradually increased her power in preparation for the unexpected. The nun with the sword said coldly, "Of course. Their evil cultivation requires the blood of children. If we want them to follow the rules, it is equivalent to cutting off their inheritance. Of course they will make a fuss." "Swordswoman, what do we plan to do now?" the beautiful woman asked. The nun with the sword said without hesitation, "If we really want blood to flow like a river, our skills are not bad. We can protect ourselves. Quickly take Chen Guang away from here, and wait for the Wen family's leader to come and take control of the situation." That's right. None of the 3 aristocratic families are here, and the leader's intentions are unclear. What's the use of the small fries? No one had expected that in such a situation, the old man standing high up in the middle of the rostrum would not be afraid. Instead, he slammed the table heavily and let out a muffled roar filled with anger from his old chest. "All of you be quiet." With the help of the amplifier, the old man's roar echoed repeatedly in the conference room. Instead, it suppressed many of the excited martial artists. There was a brief silence. Before the martial artists could react and speak, the old man shouted again, "Do you think that we dared to gather all of you here because we don't have something to rely on? Do you think we are afraid of death?" As he spoke word by word, old Jiang, old Jean, and the other old men all stood up from below the rostrum and stood beside the old man in the middle. All of them looked down at the crowd with cold and resolute eyes. Old Tan, on the other hand, gave Jiang Yuanchao a discreet look before stepping forward. Jiang Yuanchao immediately understood and gently pulled Chen Guang. "Follow me. Something bad is going to happen." Based on Chen Guang's temperament in the past, he might have left just like that. But for some unknown reason, when he saw these dozens of old men clenching their teeth and supporting their aged bodies, resolutely standing on the rostrum, facing the impact of the auras released by hundreds of martial artists intentionally or unintentionally, they were clearly shaky, but still stood firm like a stubborn rock in the tide. He didn't want to leave. On the rostrum were Jiang Ye's grandfather and Jin Shiyue's grandfather. If he guessed correctly, the old man who spoke just now should be Lin Jingwei's grandfather, and the one beside him was Jiang Ye's father. Chen Guang closed his eyes slightly. He really couldn't leave. If he really wanted to lose control, he would try to stand on the rostrum and see if the title of the Wen family's clan leader's lover could keep the situation under control. A lover was a bit too harsh. What about the Wen family's clan leader's son-in-law? This was the only bet, right? Let's bet that the title of the Wen family was really that useful. To control the people of the pugilistic world, The most effective way was to use the methods of the pugilistic world. If the Wen family really had the power to command the world, the situation wouldn't have completely gone out of control. Fortunately, he brought the painting scroll with him today, and it was still in his hands. Even if there were doubts, it should have some effect if he took it out in public, right? Even if it didn't work, he still had the heavenly holy grail in his bag. Goddess Luli wouldn't leave him in the lurch. She definitely had a way. All right, no matter how he looked at it, the old man was still a good man who relied on a woman to walk the pugilistic world. Wenwen was a woman, and so was Goddess Luli. These old men were poisonous. Their indifference to death was contagious. Chen Guang took a deep breath and shook off Jiang Yuanchao's hand. No, Uncle Jiang, I'm not leaving. Chapter 657. Why aren't we leaving? Are we going to stay here and wait for our deaths? Jiang Yuanchao growled in a low voice. Old Tan gave him a look. This was the plan that they had agreed on earlier. Once they realized that something had gone wrong, Chen Guang and Jiang Yuanchao would stand out even though they already had a perfect plan. After all, the two bald men were too eye-catching. The others didn't even need Old Tan's reminder. As soon as they sensed that something was wrong, they started to move out. The angry martial artists didn't pay much attention to the group of young and strong people sitting in the front row. All their attention was on the old men on the podium. As for the others, they could leave if they wanted to. Although the young and strong people often appeared on TV, in the eyes of the martial artists, these middle-aged and strong people were not important. There was no need to waste their energy on them. They knew that the ones in charge were these old men. They were even more wary of what the old man in the middle was relying on. They heard that many years ago, there was a destructive weapon called the atomic bomb. Could it be that these people buried an atomic bomb underground? That was too much. Although we are martial artists, only a small number of our sects are sent here. The rest of us are not core members. Even if you blow us up here, you will be the one at a disadvantage. Even if we all die here, our sect won't suffer a huge loss, okay? However, they thought too highly of the old men. This place was only a few hundred kilometers away from Yanjin. Even if there was a nuclear bomb, it was impossible to blow it up here. Wouldn't they be condemned for all eternity? The old man in the middle was a little anxious. He had been at a stalemate with the martial artists for almost a minute. Most of the people in the meeting room had already left. Only Chen Guang and Jiang Yuanchao remained where they were. Originally, he planned to wait until everyone left before revealing the sign. However, if this situation continued for too long, the martial artists would think that he was bluffing. Old Master Jin also gave Chen Guang a look, but this time, Chen Guang ignored him. He shook his head slightly, telling them to do whatever they wanted and not to worry about him. Seeing him like this, the old man in the middle took a deep breath. There was nothing else he could do. He waved his hand again and pressed a button. 8 different images suddenly appeared on the large projection screen behind him. They were all real-time recordings of the surveillance cameras. Chen Guang glanced over and felt his scalp tingle. He regretted acting cool here. To be honest, he wasn't particularly afraid of martial artists. But what the hell were these 8 missiles? You guys are playing so big. But Our Lady Liuli might not be able to save me, okay? 8 images, 8 missiles. Around the missiles were different scenes. There was a lush forest and a barren hill. Of course, the 2 most exciting ones were the 2 big guys that appeared next to the house. That's right, this house looked very familiar. It was exactly the same as the building they were in at the moment, one in front of the other in the back. Someone poked his head out of the window to take a look and gasped. As expected, it turned out that the floor of the courtyard downstairs had opened up at some point, revealing the pitch-black launcher below. Half of its shiny silver body poked out of the soil and planted itself on the ground like a large mushroom. The people near the window also looked outside. That's right. There was one in the front and one in the back of the building. The old man in the middle raised his right hand, holding a metal box in his palm. The box was tied to his wrist, and there was a red button in the middle. Everyone, as you can see, these are 8 missiles. I don't think I need to say more about their specific power. You should know a little. Don't think that you will be safe if you kill me here. As long as my heart stops beating, the missiles will explode. Within 30 seconds, everything within a few kilometers will be razed to the ground. You won't be able to fly out even if you have wings. The old man in the middle said in an extremely indifferent tone, as if he was not going to sacrifice his own life. The martial artists really didn't expect this group of pampered people in power to be able to do this. What kind of enemy was the most terrifying? An enemy who could take their own life, and who was not afraid of death, was the most terrifying. The people in power of this generation seemed to be a little different from the emperors of the past few thousand years. Many people had this kind of thought in their minds. I said that we are not afraid of death. Do you believe me now? The old man in the middle said again. Even if any martial artist here could poke him to the ground with a finger, at this moment, his old body was bursting with an indomitable spirit, causing people to not dare to look directly at him. The martial artists were incomparably confused. What went wrong? 20 or 30 years ago, weren't they as weak as the emperors of the past? Why did they suddenly become unafraid of death? Since ancient times, hadn't all emperors been greedy for life and afraid of death? In a sense, there was nothing wrong with the martial artist's judgment. No one wanted to die. But although this group of old men had the help of modern medicine, at this age, they probably didn't have many years left to live. Compared to going down to their coffins in humiliation and leaving behind endless troubles for their descendants, they would rather use their bodies that didn't have many years left to live to fight for one last breath and get rid of some cancer for their descendants. Their thinking was very straightforward. It didn't matter if they lived a few years less. This authority would ultimately belong to their descendants, and that was enough. They had made concessions 20 or 30 years ago, because they hadn't even taken half a step into the gates of hell at that time. Or perhaps it was because it would be useless even if they fought back then, and it would only be a meaningless sacrifice. But times were different now. If they had the ability, they could fight for it. The old men might not be so noble, but they would weigh the pros and cons every time they made a decision. It was just that their decision this time was too unyielding. Of course, there was a young man in the scene who was in an especially awkward situation. Master Guang didn't even have the mood to complain. Are you going to blow this place up? Why didn't you say so earlier? If I knew you were so fierce, who would want to accompany you to the heavens? I'd rather reason with martial artists than see those two huge lumps of metal down there. All right? Everyone ignore me. Let me go a few hundred kilometers away and have some peace and quiet. Old man, don't be rash. Put down that lousy box, and we can still be friends. I wonder if my lorry can teleport me to another place if it really blows up. Just the thought of it is a little too exciting. Lorry silently replied with 2 words, hee. All right, it seemed like Madame Lorry was going to quit. She must have given up all hope on her ability to court death. In response, Chen Guang shrugged his shoulders helplessly. Who could have expected that the old gentleman would go so far? Initially, the situation was still under his control, but the sudden appearance of these 2 things made his scalp go numb. Although he was moved by your spirit of facing death unflinchingly, there was clearly still room for discussion. Can you still eat after putting down the butcher's knife? If I die, I can at least die a little more heroically. It wouldn't feel good to be turned into ashes in an instant. Your bodies are precious. Maybe you can drop a gold ring or something after being burned. But I'm still young. Isn't it too much of a pity to burn me like this? No, why would it be missiles? Normally, wouldn't it be easier to just bury high-energy explosives? Wouldn't it be superfluous to set up 2 missiles? Moreover, the explosive power of high-energy explosives was easier to control and less likely to accidentally injure others. For example, people like Secretary Ma who had already escaped, but no one knew where they went. That's right, these were definitely blanks. They're blanks, right? Damned old man, don't scare us. Holy sh*T. Someone had already shouted it out. Chen Guang looked up and saw a middle-aged man pulling out a long saber from his waist. He was already standing in front of the rostrum. The martial artists didn't have their weapons confiscated, and they weren't that obedient either. At this time, Jiang Ye's grandfather spoke. Someone wanted to set off blanks, but I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to control you, so I did it. Don't worry, I guarantee that it's live ammunition. I, old Jiang, have fought in wars all my life, and I don't like to set off blanks. Only the brave will win. If you want to risk your lives, I, old Jiang, will risk my life with you." When Jiang Ye's grandfather said this, Chen Guang keenly noticed that the old man's hand, which was holding the button box, trembled subtly. Damn! The old man really thought it was blanks. No wonder he was Jiang Ye's grandfather. He really knew how to play. The other old men seemed to be a little shocked as well. They all widened their eyes as if they wanted to skin old Jiang alive. "Why are you all looking at me? Isn't my son sitting down there too? Do you still want to play this game at a time like this?" Old Jiang was a little embarrassed. He looked as if he was saying, "How can you old men drop the ball at this critical moment?" Jiang Yuanchao was already speechless. "Dad, you really know how to trick people." At first, Chen Guang was also scared to tears by old Jiang. He wondered why the old man's brain was so big. The reactions of the other old men were also a little unexpected. But after watching for a long time, he still found some clues. Something was not right. Something was not right. For such an important decision, no matter how bad Jiang Ye's grandfather was, it was impossible for him to make it in private. The reactions of the other old men seemed a little too deliberate. It felt very out of place. That's right, out of place. For the first time, Chen Guang realized that when a person's understanding of acting reached an unprecedented level, there were really many unexpected benefits. Especially when others were acting in front of him, he could easily see through them, see through the surface, and get to the essence. The old men's acting skills were really superb. No wonder the best actors were all in the political circle. This was not without reason. But they still couldn't hide it from Chen Guang. The other old men deliberately pretended that they didn't know anything, just to make the martial artists present believe that the missile was real. The purpose of setting up the missile was also to make these martial artists more shocked and obedient. "Everyone, now can you all sit down and have a good talk? We invited you here with the intention of communicating with everyone. If it's not necessary, who would want to die together with you?" The old man in the middle seemed to have spent a lot of effort to calm down. He spoke into the microphone again, but his voice was slightly trembling. Chen Guang gave Su Tao 32 thumbs up. Su Tao's acting skills were superb. If it wasn't for the fact that he was a grandmaster of the world faction, he might have been fooled by Su Tao. The internal force martial artists seemed to be in a difficult position. In Jianghu, ability came second and face came first. Face was more important than the sky. Although they were scared to death, they were not willing to admit defeat easily. But if they could live, who would want to meet the king of hell easily? At this time, everyone was still in a deadlock, just because they couldn't save their face. But as long as they didn't continue to pressure the old men, it seemed that their lives wouldn't be in danger. Although they were old, one of the old men's son was also in the audience. That's right. That bald man must be the old man's son. The little bald man hiding under the table should be the grandson of the old man who set up the missile. There were 3 generations in the family. They were really hardworking. At this time, the old man in the middle suddenly clutched his chest with a pained expression. He held onto the table with one hand and was about to collapse. "Oh no! The old general is having a heart attack. Quick! Medicine!" Tan Jiahua screamed at the back. Chen Guang, Jiang Yuanchao, and the other internal force martial artists in the conference room were also dumbfounded. "Old man, you just said that if your heart stopped, you would explode. Now you suddenly have a heart attack. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to scare us into having a heart attack? This is such a serious occasion. Don't make trouble. If you blew everyone up just because you had a heart attack, what kind of injustice would that be?" After a few more minutes, the old man's pale face finally recovered. He waved his hand and said apologetically, Sorry. Actually, I'm just forcing myself to hold on. I don't know if a blank cartridge will turn into a live one, so I'm under a little more pressure. Let's sit down and talk." "Yes, that's right. When we get back, we'll definitely convey your words to our faction leader. Everything can be discussed. Please don't be angry, old man." "Old leader, I have a special heart-calming pill here. It's not inferior to the pills produced by Thousand Flower Valley. Please take it." Although we are martial artists, we actually have a chivalrous heart. It's just that sometimes we're a little hot-tempered. I'm really sorry if we offended you just now. This time it was really good. The excitement of the crowd just now had long dissipated beyond the highest heavens after such a torment. Previously, everyone was fearless because they felt that they were powerful. Now that there were two big guys downstairs, and there was a possibility of an explosion, who wouldn't panic? Turn around and run now. What if he really pressed the button after being pushed into a corner? Also, there were so many Jianghu people here. Why wasn't anyone smart enough to take the lead and run first? Everyone represented the face of their respective sections. Whoever took the lead first would be the first to back down. They couldn't afford to lose face. Most importantly, as long as they knew their place, the situation could still be controlled. Thank you for your understanding. We really want to communicate with everyone today. If you have any opinions, you can slowly talk to us after the meeting. This isn't something that can be accomplished overnight. If we don't communicate, how can we improve our understanding? If that's the case, shall we continue? The old man in the middle asked someone to bring a chair over, and sat down with some difficulty. His right hand continued to press the button, and placed the box on the table. That's right, old chief is right. Fellow Jianghu people, please calm down. Today isn't the time to make the final decision. Communication is the most important thing. Old chief, please don't be angry. I believe that everyone in the Jianghu is chivalrous. I'm Sima Bei from the Special Affairs Bureau. Please return to your seats on account of our many years of friendship. The deputy director of the Special Affairs Bureau, Sima Bei, who had been sitting in the front row without making a move, finally stood up to speak. Ouyang Tianqing could not refuse, but the Special Affairs Bureau still needed a heavyweight. As Ouyang Tianqing's confidant, Sima Bei had interacted with many people in the Jianghu over the years. He had some influence in the Jianghu. With him taking the lead, the others followed suit and returned to their seats. Although they still felt apprehensive when they saw the button box in the old man's hand, the situation was not as intense as before. At this moment, Chen Guang was completely convinced. In the past, he had always thought that governing a country was akin to cooking a small dish was a joke, and it was a poisonous chicken soup for those ordinary people who could only revolve around pots and pans or simple meals. He really did not understand how capable the old men were. He even thought that Old Man Jin and Old Man Jiang were a little muddle-headed. However, this unique meeting today had taught him a harsh lesson. In the face of such a complicated situation, they used such an unreasonable and even childish method to control the situation that seemed to be hanging by a thread. He was pretending to have a heart attack. National affairs sometimes looked complicated, but when it came to actual matters, it did not seem that profound. It was the same philosophy of dealing with people and things. Using the right method at the right time, even if it was a heart attack, could bring peace to the world. After a round of commotion, many of the young and strong people who had just left returned one after another. They did not know what had happened, but they saw the originally unruly martial artists sitting upright and still, as obedient as primary school students. They were all very surprised. Ahem, then let's continue. Oh right, where was I? Old Chief, you just finished your PowerPoint presentation. Secretary Chu came over and whispered. Ass kick? Those pictures that talked about technological progress. I'm done. The old man in the middle nodded in realization. Oh right. If it's colored pictures, then so be it. Why did you have to give it such an inelegant name? All right, everyone, I'm done. Next, let's welcome our newly established department, Director of Guangdong General Bureau, Comrade Chen Guang, to give a speech. He will briefly introduce the scope of the new department. The goal is the same as before, to maintain communication and make progress together. Sima Bei's face stiffened. Although he had long known about the existence of this so-called Guangdong General Bureau, he had just stepped forward to help calm the situation. And now you're going to bring a new department to the front stage? Aren't you slapping me in the face in public? Master Guang did not care what Sima Bei was thinking, but he himself was extremely frustrated. I've just recovered from the great shock, and you're asking me to give a speech on stage now? Oh right, What exactly is the function of this Guangding General Bureau? Why can't I have any idea at the moment? Chen Guang began to recall the document he had read about the establishment of the Guangding General Bureau. However, no matter how he thought about it, he felt that it was full of bold words. But when it came to the specific functions of his department, they were all unknown. To put it bluntly, he was in the dark. No matter how he thought about it, he could only think about what Xian Qin and Wu Miaowan were doing in the 5 capitals. There was nothing else. However, he did not have much time to hesitate. Tan Zhaohua had already walked down from the rostrum. Come little Chen, hurry up and come up. Chen Guang braced himself and followed old man Tan to the rostrum. Unknowingly, when he stepped onto the stage, many of the old gentlemen who were still on the stage parted to make way for him, imperceptibly creating a sense of extraordinarily respectable presence for him. Chen Guang, who knew how much he was worth, did not feel proud at all. Instead, he only felt like he had been cheated. Bastards! You're trying to make me a scapegoat. He stood in the middle of the rostrum and coughed lightly. Alright, this was a test microphone, and the effect was pretty good. However, before he could speak, the audience gradually began to clamor. How could it be him? Heavens! So it's him. This Guangding General Bureau is incredible. No wonder they have the courage to talk to us now. So the one family has already gotten so close to these people? In the crowd, the sword-wielding nun's expression was calm, as if she had already expected this. She sighed and said, I don't know if this is a blessing or a curse for this young man. The beautiful woman in colorful clothes was carefree. It's a blessing if he can endure it. If he can't, then he's trash. Who told an ordinary person like him to mess around with the daughter of the Wen family? But I think he looks like he has a card up his sleeve. Of course, that little girl has her eyes set on the top of her head. Even if a man who can catch her eye doesn't cultivate inner force, there should still be something special about him. Alright, at this time, the person who was the most confused was still Chen Guang. To be honest, he had thought that he had concealed himself very well. Now that he had suddenly stepped onto the stage at such a young age, these martial artists should more or less show some unconvinced expressions. But why did they all look like they had suddenly realized something? It was as if they had known him for a long time. This feeling was very strange and annoying. It was as if he had sung a folk song in the shower, and thought that no one would know. But in the end, it was broadcasted to the whole world. It was so embarrassing. Why does it seem like everyone knows who I am? But I am the only one who is kept in the dark. Greetings, Mr. Chen. Finally, someone was the first to stand up and salute Chen Guang to show respect. With someone taking the lead, the others followed one after another. The name of the Wen family was really useful. The 3 great families of the Jianghu had existed for a long time. Although the Wen family seemed to be showing signs of decline in the past few decades, the appearance of Wen, who had reached the Wenzong realm, instantly brought the family back to the peak. The Jianghu was a world where the strong were respected, and strength made the rules. Moreover, this gentleman was the man that the Wen family's sect leader had personally announced that he would protect. This is the man I like. You guys take it easy. Although he has no ability, and is just an ordinary person, whoever dares to touch him is touching my life. I will definitely not live under the same sky as you. Old Man Jin and Old Man Jiang were also aware of this. The 2 of them patted Chen Guang's shoulder from behind. Old Man Jin said in a low voice, If you have any thoughts, just speak your mind. Your backing is stronger than you think. Chen Guang finally understood. He understood everything. No wonder the old gentleman thought so highly of me. It seems like you guys believe in Wenwen's taste. I say, have the 2 of you ever thought that since the old man has taken a liking to Wenwen, he would still be able to hook up with your granddaughter? No, Wenwen must have released some other information. However, there was no time to pursue it now. Let's deal with this matter first and ask about it later. There was no other way. He could only bring out the aura he had in the sea of time. He raised his hands and slowly pressed them down, indicating for everyone to be quiet. When the hall was completely silent, he slowly said, Hello everyone. It is a pleasure to meet you. No, this opening was too lacking in aura. I am Chen Guang, the first director of the General Directorate of Guangding, Chen Guang. I look forward to your guidance in the future. Alright, it was still lacking in aura. Everyone here comes from all over the world. It is fate that we are able to meet here. Very good. The aura was slowly rising. In the past many years, you have mostly dealt with the Special Affairs Bureau. In the future, you will have to deal with me. The eyes of the many old men lit up. This was the feeling they wanted. Chapter 658. Regarding the past, it's meaningless for me to continue repeating it here. Everyone has their own views on right and wrong. I can't change anyone's mind by force, and I don't have that ability. Today, the leaders have invited everyone here and asked me to speak on stage. I just hope to give everyone a chance to reconsider and examine themselves before things get out of hand. Chen Guang didn't expect to be able to make these people surrender in one fell swoop. He didn't have that ability, and neither did the old masters. He believed that they didn't have such extravagant hopes either. Don't be fooled by the lively appearance now. The old master's long march of 10,000 miles might just be the first step. This step was a short distance, but it was a qualitative change. They didn't dare to face each other, but they were now on equal footing. They could finally face each other and talk about equality, peace, and coexistence with them. My Guangdong General Headquarters is actually not that great of a department. It's just a channel for everyone to communicate. After today, if there's anything on your mind, anything you can't figure out, or any laws and regulations that you don't understand, you can come to my Guangdong General Headquarters to communicate. If you don't communicate, you won't understand. If you don't understand each other, there will be misunderstandings. Only by making things clear can misunderstandings be eliminated. Alright, I'm done. Chen Guang was almost done, so he turned around and ran. He finally understood that the functions of this lousy general headquarters were not fixed at all. He had to adapt to the situation. It was impossible for him to thoroughly explain such a high-level new department with just a few words here and there. The situation was not clear yet. If he were to make a firm decision so early, he would make more mistakes. It was better to leave some leeway and slowly chew on it later. For example, if he raised the requirements too high now, when the martial artists found out that individual weapons weren't that scary, wouldn't he be courting death by showing off later? Otherwise, if he lowered the requirements now, when he clearly had the upper hand, it would be inconvenient for him to raise the price because of the previous promise. Wouldn't he be at a disadvantage again? So why would I talk about functions now? To put it bluntly, I'm just an intermediary company. Those who want to rely on the old masters can come to me, and I'll be the middleman. As for how to cooperate, how to work together, what privileges you can maintain, what support you can enjoy, and what benefits you have to hand over, these are all matters to be discussed later. It seemed like he had said a lot, but in fact, he hadn't made any decisions. But to say that he hadn't said anything at all, that wasn't right either. He had more or less expressed his basic intentions and attitude. Firstly, the Directorate of Light would replace the Special Affairs Bureau. Secondly, the style of the Directorate of Light was definitely different from that of the Special Affairs Bureau. Thirdly, what you've seen and heard today will definitely be an eye-opener for you. In the past, you didn't learn the law, didn't talk about the law, and didn't care about the laws of ordinary people. But in the future, you'll have to think about it more. Sai, why didn't this guy make it clear before going down? Jiang Ye's grandfather seemed to want to stop him. Old Master Jin shook his head. That's enough. This kid has done well. The old man in the middle nodded in satisfaction. Not bad. You're neither servile nor overbearing, but you're not overly overbearing. You've really grasped it just right. Times have changed. The younger generation now is really amazing. If it was in our era, people like little Chen would be born with knowledge. Think about how difficult it was for us to read a book back then. Can you compare? Now they're walking around the world with a computer. Their horizons are different, and people with a flexible mind can naturally learn faster and understand things more thoroughly. The old man in the middle said, I thought he would say something harsh, and then I would step in to smooth things over. Now that he's taken this step, I don't even know what to say anymore. The old men did not expect Chen Guang to be so slippery. They thought that with his personality, when he was suddenly pushed onto the stage, he would at least say a few harsh words. In the end, they were caught off guard by Chen Guang's juvenile Tai Chi. Chen Guang returned to the stage and sat next to Jiang Yuanchao. His heart was also thumping wildly. Old Master Tan sat beside him. "Little Chen, you did well. Your improvisation really didn't disappoint us." Chen Guang asked blankly. "Old Master Tan, what did I say just now? Why don't I have any recollection of it? I was so nervous that my mind went blank the whole time. You guys are too forceful. Can't you let me know earlier next time? Can't you prepare a script for me in advance?" I feel like I almost mispronounced my own name when he suddenly asked me to charge forward. "Tan Zhaohua." "Jiang Yuanchao. So you're just spouting nonsense because you fainted from shock. How many virtues did you accumulate in your past life for you to be able to bluff your way through like a blind cat hitting a dead mouse?" Sima Bei's face was gloomy. Usually, he was the representative of the Special Affairs Bureau to speak on stage, but it seemed like the entire Special Affairs Bureau was excluded today. Chen Guang and his General Directorate of Guangding had officially surfaced, which meant that the old men were going to attack the Special Affairs Bureau. They were going to take off their last layer of disguise, and it was time to shed all pretense of cordiality. It was already close to noon, and the mobilization meeting before the military exercise had temporarily come to an end. They would first have lunch at the base, and in the afternoon would be the official military exercise. At this time, from the gate of the base, one after another, fully sealed green trucks entered in a line. Exactly 20 green-armed 125 vehicles were neatly arranged in a corner of the field. The people from the military and the military walked to one side each. Everyone was still wary of each other, afraid that they would make a fuss over the food. "Old Chief, I don't think Chen Guang is suitable for this heavy responsibility." Halfway through the meal, Chao Shiming finally could not sit still anymore. He mustered up the courage to approach the old men's table and said so. "Why, little Chao, tell me your reason." The old man in the middle put down his chopsticks and turned around to ask with a faint smile. "Shiming, what nonsense are you talking about? Get lost." Chao Shiming's father was also at the table, and he started reprimanding with a stern face. Chao Shiming and his father looked at each other, feeling a little wronged, but he argued. Chen Guang is not even 21 years old yet. How can such an important position be given to a kid who is still wet behind the ears? Even if he has some connections in the martial world, we can just give him an idle position. If we let him take real power, it will only be a matter of time before he misses the big picture. Young, that's a good reason. What else? Don't get agitated, old Chao. Let little Chao finish. Chao Shiming swallowed his saliva and continued. Did you see what he said when he went on stage just now? It was all nonsense. There was no dignity of an official at all. It was purely discrediting us. Letting such a young man take a high position is not enough to convince the public. His connections in the martial world, and what he did in Shund, are not enough to support his current position. It's the same even if he's Uncle Jin's grandson-in-law. Chao Shiming turned his attention to old Master Jin. Things were getting clearer. Chao Shiming hadn't planned on showing his cards so quickly, but he couldn't sit still anymore. If he delayed any longer, things would become irreversible after today. The elders should also understand that although Chao Shiming was the only one standing here, he was definitely not alone. He represented the attitude of many people in the military, and it was impossible for him to be swatted to death with just one blow of a stick. The old man in the middle still smiled faintly. Little Chao, you can leave. We heard what you said. That's it? Yesterday in the courtyard, I and Director Ding of the Ministry of Finance had only spoken a few words to him as an elder. In the end, he had turned hostile on the spot and put us in a difficult position. He has no subtlety and no sense of responsibility. In the future, how will our various departments cooperate with him? Isn't this a waste of time? Chao Shiming was at a loss. I've already said so much. Old master, you should say something. At another table, Jiang Yuanchao poked Chen Guang's shoulder. Little Chen, that guy is probably bad-mouthing you. Aren't you going to defend him? Chen Guang turned his head to look and saw Chao Shiming's angry and anxious look. He shrugged nonchalantly. Uncle Jiang, eat up. I'll get you a big drumstick on behalf of Solomon. Yo, not bad, young man. You know I like meat. Speaking of which, why are you representing Solomon? Jiang Yuanchao's words were immediately diverted by Chen Guang. He wasn't going to defend himself. Leave it if you want. Do you really think I can't wait to be a hot potato under my butt? When I was forced to do something, I already wanted to quit, okay? I just want to hide in a corner and live my own life, okay? Whoever wants to do this can go. I'll happily earn my own money, earn some faith points, and do some shameful things with Lili in the cup. Sooner or later, I'll become the master of the trichiliocosm, okay? Do I have nothing better to do than to run into your troublesome business? If it weren't for the fact that I haven't avenged myself and the matter with Wenwen, I would have quit a long time ago, okay? Who would have thought that every time I mess around, it just so happens to be what you want? You guys are poisonous. How can you get me right by a fluke? I don't know what you guys are thinking, but I'm breaking down. Of course, he knew he was just thinking about it. No matter what Chao Shiming said, it was useless. The expression of the old man in the middle gradually turned cold. Little Chao, it's good that you have this intention, but you still have to learn to see the essence of many things through the surface. Don't be blinded by simple appearances. Old Chao, go back and talk to little Chao about what happened today. Tell him why we have to be Chen Guang. Old Chao nodded hurriedly and glared at Chao Shiming. Did you hear that? I told you to leave. See, it's useless. Chen Guang watched as Chao Shiming left dejectedly. Jiang Yuanchao gave him a thumbs up. You're so observant at such a young age. Chen Guang sighed. I didn't want to do this, Uncle Jiang. After lunch, it was time for the official military drill. In the middle of the field, there were already more than 1,000 soldiers. Chen Guang had some impression of most of them. If he remembered correctly, most of these people were his special trainees and shunned. Although they didn't really learn anything, they were selected from all over the country. Needless to say, they were the elites of the elites. This also reflected the importance of Chen Guang. Although he didn't realize it himself, he was indeed the chief instructor of almost all the top soldiers in the country. Perhaps this was also one of the reasons why the old men made him the director of the general administration of Guangding. He thought he didn't do anything, but in fact he had done a lot. As the commander, Old Man Ten walked down to the field and stood on the flag stand in the middle of the square. He first turned his head and gave a simple nod to the hundreds of people in the stands, then turned to the microphone and took a deep breath, ready to officially announce the start of the individual military exercise. Hundreds of representatives from all over the country held their breath. This sudden military drill would change the situation of the whole country in the dark. At this moment, a loud noise came from the corner of the wall of the base. What was going on? This time, even the old men were at a loss. The guard battalion in charge of security was mobilized in an instant. It was obvious that this was an accident. The martial artists were not much better. They had already suffered a lot of fright today. They were even aware that there were 2 powerful missiles under the building not far behind them. Another loud sound rang out, and the cracks on the wall spread out like a spider web. In an instant, they had spread to more than 100 feet long. Before anyone could figure out what had happened outside the wall, the cracked wall collapsed with a loud bang. Smoke and dust rose everywhere, and sand soared into the sky. Alert! The guard battalion commander shouted. Hundreds of soldiers with live ammunition rushed to the crack on the wall. Even the armed 125 was activated, turning its turret to aim in that direction. Beside Chen Guang, Jiang Yuanchao let out a low roar. He stood up abruptly and pulled out his pistol, ready to jump down from the stand. Chen Guang looked at the dust from afar. For some reason, even though he was a few hundred meters away, he felt a familiar aura behind the dust. It was inexplicable, as if it came from the bottom of his heart. Could it be that Wenwen is here? Do you have to be so domineering with your entrance? Isn't there a gate there? Can't you just enter from the gate? Do you think you're in a manga? Can't you just enter properly? Gradually, the dust settled, and a slender black figure slowly walked out. Damn, it's really Wenwen. Chen Guang's eyes widened. For some reason, as her best friend, he felt a little ashamed and embarrassed. Oh no, she's been infected by my Chinibyu. Is the virus in the old man so strong? Go through the gate. One who gradually walked out, was dressed in a black warrior outfit. The black saber that was as long as a person hung on her back. However, it didn't seem to be sheathed. Instead, it was tied to the scabbard. Drops of blood dripped from the edge of the black saber. She walked for more than 10 meters, but the blood trail on her back was already more than 10 meters long. She seemed to be covered in dust. After all, no matter how high her martial arts were, she couldn't protect herself from dust. But she shouted in a low voice, and a powerful energy burst out from all the pores on her body. Smoke and dust spread out from her body, resembling the halo drawn by Akira Toriyama when Goku transformed into a Saiyan in Dragon Ball. Chen Guang silently gave her a thumbs up. Identification complete. Severe Chinibyu. First, she looked at the many guards in full uniform, and the muzzle pointed at her not far away. One stretched her neck and looked at the stands. Soon she saw Chen Guang. She grinned, and the cold and murderous aura instantly melted. Even the blood dripping from her long saber stopped. She waved at Chen Guang and smiled brightly. Then, she cupped her hands at the crowd. Everyone, I'm sorry. I'm One from the One family. I'm late. As soon as she finished speaking, the smoke and dust finally stopped. Only then did the crowd realize that at the periphery of the collapsed wall, there were at least dozens of martial artists in different uniforms lying in a twisted manner. Broken limbs were scattered all over the ground, and not a single corpse was left intact. Those with eyes could tell that something was wrong. These people are wearing the uniforms of the Poison Sect and Dark Sect. They're from the two major sects. Chapter 659. It was no wonder that the youngest Wenzong in history had yet to arrive. Even if there was a traffic jam, she should have arrived by now. It turned out that she had been waiting outside for the Poison Clan and Dark Clan to arrive. Had the relationship between the two forces deteriorated to such a state? It seemed that they would not rest until one of them was dead. If he was not wrong, among the dozens of Poison Clan and Dark Clan martial artists lying on the ground, the two who were dressed in luxurious clothes should be the important figures of the two sections. But they were all dead. Not a single one was spared. They had been hiding until now. Perhaps they had guessed that One was waiting for them and wanted to sneak in. As long as they were inside, even if they had conflicts with each other in public, they could still reluctantly sit down and talk. In the end, they had miscalculated. They had been watching until now, but One had not appeared. Hence, they came out from their hiding spots and gathered together to enter the base. How could they have imagined that a grandmaster would ambush them in such a sinister manner? One, you will die a horrible death. Suddenly, a person came out from the corpses on the ground. However, he only had half a body left. It seemed like he was still hanging on to his last breath. It was one of the martial artists in luxurious clothes. This is Jiohei. I didn't expect them to send their vice sect leader. This is too tragic. This is too tragic. From what I know, Jiohei has almost reached the pinnacle of skin force. His poison skill is unfathomable. He even brought so many people with him, while the One family only has one sect leader. Oh my god. The one beside him should be the vice sect leader of the Dark Clan Ghost Shadow. He and Jiohei have always been good friends. Although they are not from the same sect, they often travel together. Now they have died together. Two masters at the pinnacle of Pi strength, and so many subordinates. But we barely heard the sound of killing, and they all died without a complete corpse. How did this demoness surnamed One cultivate? This doesn't make sense. This is too unbelievable. That's right. Demoness. She is walking over. Look, she is still smiling. She has just killed so many people, but she is still smiling so brightly. No, she should be a demoness. Shh. Lower your voice, don't let her hear you. While walking, One didn't even turn her head. She kicked the ground with her heel, and a small stone was sent flying by her heel. The stone flew towards Jiohei, who had just stood up and was cursing her. Half of the pitiful Poison Sect's vice sect master's body was sent spinning in the air. Like a piece of leather, he fell to the ground silently. Such power, such an appearance, was enough to make everyone's scalp go numb. Even the old man, who had full confidence in the military's individual weapons, was shaken. This was the first time they had seen the pinnacle of power in the world of martial artists. So, a real guru-level inner strength martial artist was this terrifying? They were well aware of the sturdiness of the base's walls. They were at least half a meter thick, yet they had been destroyed with just 2 blows. If every inner force martial artist was this strong, then what was the point of fighting? He wasn't human at all. Even the most advanced weapons might not be able to capture the enemy's figure. Once the enemy hid in the crowd of the city, who could do anything to them? Fortunately, this young lady was on their side. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. The old man quietly looked at Chen Guang's bald head. The more he looked at it, the more pleasing it was to the eye. A heroine had a weakness for a handsome man. In fact, Chen Guang didn't seem particularly handsome. He didn't know what she saw in Chen Guang. Forget it, don't bother about the details. In short, we relied on the chief of the Guangdong police headquarters to seduce her and turn the pinnacle of inner force martial artists into our own. As for the younger generation in the military and political circles, they weren't any better. All of them were dumbfounded. Many of the elite soldiers in the security camp and the square who were participating in the military exercise were breathing rapidly. This big sister was so strong that it made people's hair stand on end. The more one needed power, the more they would respect the strong. One used her absolute power to instantly gain everyone's respect. Fortunately, we have Chief Instructor Chen. In a sense, Chief Instructor Chen is the strongest man in the world. At this moment, no matter which force they were from, they were all shocked by Wenwen's domineering and cold appearance. It wasn't until she walked closer that the sword-wielding nun and the beautiful woman in colorful clothes, who had no ulterior motives, came to their senses first. They cupped their hands and said, "Greetings, Master Wen." The 2 sect leaders lowered their heads and looked at each other. They had tried to compare their own disciples with her, but now it seemed that they weren't on the same level at all. Fortunately, the 2 sect leaders didn't read comics. Otherwise, they would have scolded them and said that they shouldn't fight to the death if their styles were different. The others also came to a sudden realization and hurriedly followed. Master Wen's martial arts are unparalleled, and she looks like a fairy. She's really a blessing for the martial arts world. Master Wen has such a cultivation at such a young age. She will definitely become the supreme master of the martial arts world in the future. Those rascals from the Poison Sect and the Dark Sect dared to secretly spy on the Wen family. They deserve to die. Chen Guang wasn't much better than these people. The last time he saw Wenwen, she wasn't as powerful as she was now. How long has it been? Are you on drugs or something? Your skills are rising like a rocket, right? Are you going to call me in a few days to tell me that you're going to break through the void and go to another plane? Big sister, people like you living in fantasy novels are like a cheap party with the protagonist's halo on, okay? How many snake gallbladders have you picked up recently to go with your wine? Or did you transform into Duan Yu and accidentally break the exquisite chess game somewhere and receive Su Xinghe's skills? You said you're the Condor heroes, but I've only trained to the calf meat, and you've already unified the martial arts world. How can I happily act cool with you? Come to think of it, seeing those fence-sitters flattering Wenwen, Chen Guang felt proud. That's right, everyone, don't panic. She's a lowly woman, she won't eat you. Chen Guang didn't expect that Wenwen's heaven-defying cheat was not given by someone else but himself. It was currently turning into the 7 stars in her dantian and spinning. Wenwen smiled again. Just now, she had killed many of her opponent's capable subordinates. Now that she saw Chen Guang here, her mood was much better. She nodded to the others. Greetings, seniors. I don't deserve it. The old men had already gone up to greet Wenwen passionately. This time, everyone's hearts were at ease. There wouldn't be any trouble today. Wenwen also gave the old men enough face. She bowed and greeted. Greetings, seniors. This junior pays her respects. Sai, don't stand on ceremony. We can't thank Sect Master Wen enough for your presence. The old men grinned from ear to ear. Since everyone is here, shall we continue? One of the old men asked tentatively. Wenwen nodded. Of course, continue. Please take a seat here. Secretary Chu was the smartest. He took the initiative to lead Wenwen in Chen Guang's direction. That's right. There was an empty chair beside Chen Guang's seat. It was reserved for Wenwen. Jiang Yuanchao, who was originally sitting on the other side of Chen Guang, seemed to have run away when he sensed that something was amiss. Wenwen smiled and greeted everyone along the way. Then, she walked toward Chen Guang's direction. Halfway there, she stopped and took the black cleaver off her back. She took a silk handkerchief from her belt and wiped it before gently sheathing the blade. When she was wiping her saber, she gripped the hilt of her saber. A cold current uncontrollably swept out from where she stood. Those without inner strength might only feel a slight chill, but the warriors sitting behind her with inner strength felt their bodies tremble at this moment, feeling a dull pain in their dantian. Just the way she held the saber was already so terrifying. It was no wonder that she was able to kill dozens of people from Poison Sect and Dark Sect in just 2 moves. Even though he did not see what happened with his own eyes, he could imagine how overwhelming the saber shadows she had produced were just by using his brain. On the other side, Tan Jiahua wasn't in a hurry to announce the start of the military drill. The group of old men looked at the group of silent inner force martial artists happily. Their previous frustration and helplessness were swept away. Sigh, if only she had come earlier. Wenwen walked closer to Chen Guang. The black cleaver was on her back again. She was smiling casually, but everywhere she passed, everyone felt threatened. Sima Bei's face was dark. The situation had taken a turn for the worse. He clearly remembered that the One family's clan leader wasn't as powerful as she was now. The speed of her improvement was too terrifying. He had to report this to the director as soon as possible. Shiming, do you understand now why we must make Chen Guang the director? Previously, you thought that his relationship with the martial artists wasn't worth mentioning. Do you still think so now? Chao Shiming's father turned around and asked his useless son. Chao Shiming felt extremely embarrassed and lowered his head. Although he was extremely resentful in his heart, he felt even more despair and helplessness. Why did this brat have such good luck? How could this kind of woman fall for him? It was simply illogical. Got it, Dad. Get your comrade from the General Staff Department to prepare for a transfer to the Military Research Institute. Old Master Chao sighed again. Chao Shiming's eyes widened. He thought he had heard wrong. The comrade that the old master was talking about was one of Chao Shiming's closest friends. He was his right-hand man in his faction. Now that he was transferred to the Military Research Institute, it seemed like his rank didn't change, but it was equivalent to retirement. To him, it was like breaking his limbs. Why? This isn't fair. Lower your voice. What's unfair about it? Don't let your uncles laugh at you. Don't you realize that you've done something wrong? If you make a mistake, you have to pay the price. Otherwise, why don't you go to the Military Research Institute yourself? Chao Shiming finally lowered his head and stopped struggling. He was filled with indescribable regret. If only he had known earlier. Sigh, how could I have known earlier in this world? At that moment, Wenwen and Chen Guang were finally within 10 meters of each other. Chen Guang also stood up and was about to welcome her. Suddenly, Wenwen's expression changed. She raised her hand to hold on to the guardrail of the stand. Her face instantly turned red. Chen Guang stopped where he was. Huh, this scene seems familiar? What's going on? Just a second ago, Wenwen still had the demeanor of a grandmaster. Suddenly, she turned sideways and clamped her legs together. She held on to the guardrail tightly. The redness spread from the base of her neck, all the way up to her ears, and to her forehead. Big sister, are you sick? You're seriously sick. Hold on a little longer. I'll come over now. Let me use my ancestral secret method to examine you. There are so many people here watching. Don't do anything shameful. You're our backer. Wenwen's hands were tightly gripping the guardrail. With a little force from her fingertips, the metal guardrail immediately deflated. Perhaps it had been a long time, but she had almost forgotten what had happened last time. Now, all kinds of strange thoughts were uncontrollably bursting forth in her mind as she approached Chen Guang again. She finally recalled the fear of being dominated by this guy. If there was no one here, the situation could still be controlled. But we're in public now. Don't you dare harm me. On this side, Chen Guang took another step towards Wenwen. On the other side, Wenwen screamed, "Don't! Chen Guang, don't come over." Chen Guang was at a loss. He spread his hands and said, Why? What's going on? Do you think I won't come over just because you tell me not to? I'm going to come over no matter what." He took another step forward. This time, Wenwen's lower abdomen seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. It was as if someone had ruthlessly hammered her with a hammer. There was a buzzing sound inside, just like the brass bell in the Shaolin temple. The various charming visions in Wenwen's mind became more and more violent. She could only grit her teeth and maintain her clarity. She secretly cursed in her heart. "When there's no one around, I'll strangle you to death, you heartless bastard." Not good. Yuan Guan seemed to be about to fall. It's over. She wasn't wearing a skirt today, but a martial arts uniform. She was a grandmaster, the most prestigious expert in the pugilistic world. If she wet her pants in public, she would probably have to kill everyone here to prevent her prestige from being tarnished. But based on her understanding of Chen Guang, if he said he would come over, he would really come over. But she couldn't run away now. Taking a deep breath, Wenwen tilted her body and faced Chen Guang. Her pink face squeezed out a shy smile for Chen Guang. "Be good, listen to me. Don't come over. We'll talk later. Listen to me, eh?" The many inner force martial artists who had been watching Wenwen and Chen Guang all gasped. Sect leader Wen's demeanor, tone, posture, and expression. Oh my God. The Grandmaster was acting coquettishly and showing off their affection in public. This was simply inhumane. We were wrong about you. We didn't expect you to be such a Grandmaster. These two, aren't they a little too shameless? The nun with the sword kept a straight face. She wanted to reprimand them, but didn't dare to say anything. Public morals are degenerating day by day. Public morals are not what they used to be. The beautiful woman said with a smile. Actually, I'm quite envious of the young people nowadays. They are not like us in the past. We cultivated hard all day long, but we were only skin force martial artists. Small fries like us shouldn't try to guess the uniqueness of a grandmaster. The nun with the sword rolled her eyes. You're right. He is a Wenzong after all. If I'm not wrong, the current sect leader, Wen, is probably even more powerful than the Wenzong who appeared 100 years ago. That's why he is from the famous Wen family, but the two of us can only stay in small sects like Thousand Flower Valley and Thousand Despair sect. Not only were the martial artists blinded, but the political and military bigwigs on the other side weren't any better. Jiang Yuanchao felt bad. I don't believe that these two are not in a relationship. Old Master Jin and Old Master Jiang were also embarrassed. Why does this scene look completely different from what sect leader Wen told us? Chao Shiming looked on helplessly. He really didn't want to admit that he was jealous of anyone. After all, he was already an old man. Why should he be jealous of the young people's public display of affection? But their public display of affection made his brother want to go to the Military Research Institute. Not to mention the others who were frightened. Even Chen Guang was not much better. He had known Wenwen for so long, but when did she ever act coquettishly towards him? She did not even act like this on the second day after he got a room with her. Okay? You think we are showing off our affection, but in fact I have goosebumps all over my body. There must be something fishy going on. I'd better take a few steps back. Chen Guang decisively decided to retreat. All right. I won't come over. You can do whatever you want. Don't mind me. After saying that, he ran back to his seat and sat there obediently. He stared at the crowd below the stage, as if he didn't care about what was going on outside. The strange movements in her body gradually stopped, and Wenwen finally let out a long sigh of relief. She rolled her eyes at him. This guy was finally behaving himself. Just the look in her eyes was enough to make the people on the spectator stand melt. Sect leader Wen, please be more reserved. Although you are now close to those in power, you also represent the people of the martial arts world. Sai, forget it. Since he is a grandmaster, he can do whatever he wants. Wenwen found a place to sit more than 20 meters away from Chen Guang. Then, she took out her phone and sent a WeChat message to Chen Guang. On the other side, Chen Guang also took out his phone and the two of them started chatting. Both of you took out your phones just like that. Why didn't both of you hand in your phones? This doesn't make sense. Alright, Wenwen came in by breaking the wall. As for Chen Guang, no one seemed to have talked to him about the phone this morning. Forget it. Let's not care about the details. These two will definitely not take a picture and post it on the internet. Damn, Chen Guang has already started to point the camera at the field. Jiang Yuanchao rushed over. Chen Guang, what are you doing? Chen Guang looked up and grinned. I have to post on Weibo, even when I'm having a feast. Shouldn't I post on my WeChat moments to celebrate such a big event? Jiang Yuanchao was speechless. Looking at his green face, Chen Guang chuckled. Uncle Jiang, don't be nervous. I'm just joking with you. Do you think I don't know these simple rules? Even if no one says it, I know. I'm taking a selfie here. Wenwen is sitting over there, so I'm taking a selfie for her to see. Look, I've already reminded Wenwen not to take any pictures or videos. As he said that, Chen Guang even showed Jiang Yuanchao his chat history with Wenwen. It was really like that. Oh, right, Uncle Jiang, since you're here, why don't we take a picture together? Chen Guang pulled Jiang Yuanchao along. No, I'm not going to do the tricks of you youngsters. Kachuk, Jiang Yuanchao, and Chen Guang appeared in the camera together. That's right, the old man even made a V-shaped hand gesture. Uncle Jiang, what about the tricks of the youngsters? Your V-shaped hand is even more familiar than mine. I've been led into the ditch by you. Is that so? Do you want another picture? No. Kachuk, Uncle Jiang, can we not make the V-shaped hand gesture? No, it's instinctive. Seeing that Jiang Yuanchao and Chen Guang were together, the old men finally breathed a sigh of relief. At least they had settled down. They really did not know what was going on. On such a big occasion, the base was still being cleaned up, but the two of them only used two small expressions and a few simple words to lighten the atmosphere. A few minutes later, Old Man Tan regrouped, and the military exercise officially began. Many of the weapons that Chen Guang had seen in the documents were displayed in front of the world one after another. This military exercise, which might not appear in external reports for the next 20 years, had finally begun. This was a grand gathering of modern cutting-edge technology, the most cutting-edge technological essence of the country, over the past few decades, was unreservedly displayed under the sun. Some of the things that the old man hinted at the mobilization meeting became reality. The martial artists' emotions gradually shifted away from Wenwen. From the initial disdain, they gradually began to feel threatened, and finally, they even felt their blood run cold. Had modern technology become so terrifying without them realizing it? Chapter 660. An ordinary person wearing this armor could actually become as light as a swallow, leaping several meters. Although there was no significant increase in strength, the explosive power displayed by raising one's hands and feet could not be underestimated. Although these soldiers were not proficient in using this new equipment, if they were given long-term training, they would be able to adapt to this equipment that could increase human strength to the extreme. Even if they were to use cold weapons, they would be able to compete with external experts. This was the power of the fully fitted armor. As for the various exquisite guns, it was even more shocking. The last laser-guided depleted uranium bullet was especially terrifying. One must know that this was a single-soldier handheld weapon, coupled with a multifunction aiming device. It could simply turn a soldier into a human cannon. It was not an exaggeration to say that among all the internal strength martial artists present, perhaps only Wenwen would be able to escape from this weapon. But different from other weapons, there were only 3 heavy rifles that could withstand depleted uranium bullets. It was not that the old men did not want to display more to scare people, but there were only 3 such guns that could be used stably. If they wanted to continue, they did not have enough materials. Before the revolutionary advancement of material technology, the alloy required to manufacture these guns could only be manufactured in a year, and the yield rate was less than 10%. As for the other mechanical armors that were similar to Gundam, they were not as scary as this gun. Bullets that could be dodged were not fatal bullets. The atmosphere of the scene became extremely tense when the armed 125, the 20 mechanical monsters finally appeared. Although Chen Guang was not a military fanatic, he still had some understanding of the domestic type 99 tanks. After all, he often saw them on the internet. But it was obvious that these 20 armed 125 and type 99 tanks were of a different generation. Perhaps the next generation of infantry fighting vehicles would not even have the type 125. It was clearly a gigantic mechanical monster that weighed dozens of tons, but its ability to turn and accelerate was so powerful that it made one's hair stand on end. The most frightening part was the main and secondary cannons that were protruding from the cannon turret. The main cannons displayed several types of special pills, armor-piercing bullets, explosive bullets, incendiary bullets, and so on. Each type caused terrifying damage to the target. At the same time, it relied on the almost artificial intelligence fire control system to accurately hit the small targets that were moving at high speed. Through the unified coordination of the command center, the firepower of the 2125 mm armored vehicles' main cannons interweaved into a seamless net of firepower. Even a top-level martial artist running at full speed would die without a doubt. However, this was not the scariest part. When the secondary and main cannons of the armed 125 opened fire at the same time, the inner force martial artists felt their blood run cold. Chen Guang was so shocked that he stood up straight from his seat. He thought he was watching a movie. What the hell, a laser cannon? Who the hell could dodge a laser cannon that traveled at the speed of light? Why wasn't this mentioned in the information? Was it because he was too shocked to write it down? This is the high-energy ion beam cannon. The elders just decided to display it this morning. What do you think? Strong enough, right? It's just that it takes a little longer to store energy, and the cooldown time after each launch is a little longer. Also, it's a little more difficult to manufacture, but there are no other flaws. Jiang Yuanchao sighed softly beside Chen Guang. Chen Guang also became serious. How many finished products are there now? 8. But there are 20 here. Chen Guang was puzzled. 12 of them are just for show. They're just ordinary infrared spotlights. They look like they're just there to scare people. Jiang Yuanchao said sneakily. Chen Guang was speechless. Uncle, you guys sure know how to have fun on such a serious occasion. After a long time, when the sun was setting in the west, this unique military exercise finally came to an end. Old Man Tan returned to the flag platform and bowed to everyone in the stands. Then he solemnly said, "Reporting to Chief, the military exercise has come to a successful end." Many old men shook their numb legs and stood up. They did not deliberately provoke the warriors. Instead, they passionately said some words of encouragement to the many soldiers participating in the competition below the stage. This group of elite soldiers did not embarrass the military. From the time they were transferred here, to the start of training on the new weapons, to the successful completion of the mission, it had only been about 10 days. But throughout the process of the military exercise, they did not make any mistakes. They perfectly executed the instructions and demonstrated the power of the new equipment to the fullest. Although it was just a military exercise, it was not foolproof. The training time given to them was very short, and the equipment was very different from the conventional weapons. They were overloaded with training every day, and the equipment had not been thoroughly tested. There was a possibility of accidents happening at any time. Once an accident happened, it would be a big deal. Many accidents happened during the training. In serious cases, the equipment exploded more than once or twice. Since the start of the training, the number of dead soldiers had already reached double digits. Their blood and tears were hidden in places that outsiders could not see. Although it was just a top-secret internal exercise, every soldier understood the importance of this exercise. If the mission was completed well, they could fully demonstrate the power of the military's weapons and put enough pressure on the martial artists. But if they failed, made a mistake, or had an accident on the spot, people would find out that the equipment was experimental. They would question the power of the equipment, and then it would not be able to achieve the deterrent effect. Fortunately, they had finally completed the mission successfully today. Those brothers who had sacrificed themselves did not die in vain. And the leaders were not disappointed. Although it was not a battlefield, it was also to protect the country. The soldiers clenched their fists tightly, and beads of sweat ran down their cheeks. But they could not hide the excitement in their hearts, especially when they saw the serious expressions of the internal strength martial artists. It made the soldiers feel a sense of accomplishment. Chen Guang was also very satisfied with the performance of these students. Not bad. They did not embarrass the old man, the chief instructor. Chao Shiming's father turned around and said to him, "See? These people are all the elites of the military, and we do not know how many backbone members will emerge from them in the future. You know that they have received special training from Chen Guang and shunned. Look at their eyes carefully. Although they are being lectured by the old leader, many of them will subconsciously look in Chen Guang's direction. Do you know what this means? They worship Chen Guang a lot. What is going on in your head? You haven't even figured out the situation, and you rashly started a feud with others. How did I give birth to such a stupid son like you?" Chao Shiming was scolded harshly. He felt wronged. There were also elites from the military, who were selected for special training. You should have at least let one of them back, to let me understand the situation. In the end, after the special training was over, you all sent them to closed-door training. How am I supposed to find out? How can you blame me for this? Aren't you my father? If you had told me about these things earlier, this wouldn't have been so troublesome. Forget it. A fall into the pit, a gain in your wit. You know what to do in the future." Old man Chao said this, and did not say anything else. But at this time, the one who felt the most depressed was not Chao Shiming, but Sima Bei. At this time, there were only two words echoing repeatedly in his mind. The situation is lost. Director Ouyang had miscalculated. These years, he had placed too much energy on the martial arts, but had neglected to infiltrate the administrative side. Unknowingly, the development of modern technology had completely exceeded their imagination. If these weapons could really be equipped on a large scale, not to mention on a large scale, as long as they reached a certain level, it would indeed be enough to form a terrifying torrent of steel. No matter how big the sect was, once they were caught, no one would be able to stop them. Sima Bei gritted his teeth. This group of old farts. They had made such a big move without saying anything. The evasive gazes of the martial artists on the viewing platform, and the solemn expressions on their faces, all indicated one thing. Flaunting one's military might would always be more effective than subservience. After today, there would definitely be people who would come looking for Chen Guang and his Guangdong General Headquarters to declare their surrender. We are being pulled out from under the pot. The next step would be to clearly reduce the budget of the Special Affairs Bureau, lay off the staff, and further weaken the Special Affairs Bureau's sense of existence. Director Ouyang, what should we do now? Sima Bei looked up at the sky with some confusion and distress. No wonder Director Ouyang was unwilling to come in person. You must have already guessed this situation, right? Today was really an eye-opener. I didn't expect the military's weapons to be so terrifying, but I guess they haven't brought out everything yet. The information system required for special operations, the satellite navigation system floating in the sky, none of these have been revealed, but I have a feeling that they have a way to slowly find people. Sooner or later, no one will be able to hide. Wenwen tapped on her phone. Chen Guang replied, "I'm also quite surprised. Will it be a threat to you? It's still a little short of maturity, but I don't know in another 10 years. Won't you be even more powerful in another 10 years? What kind of treasures have you been eating these days? God knows, I don't even understand what's going on. Right, I'll be leaving first. See you at the motel, the small motel from last time. I'll wait for you there." After Wenwen finished speaking, she got up and flew to the front of the leaders in 2s and 3s. She first cupped her hands to the leaders and said, "Old leaders, I've really broadened my horizons today. When I go back, I'll definitely tell the world what I've seen and heard in the circle. As a citizen of Huaxia, it is an honor to be able to see such a strong country and strong army. Then, I'll be leaving first." The old man in the middle imitated Wenwen's martial arts gesture and cupped his hands at her. "Sect leader Wen, are you not leaving after dinner?" Wenwen shook her head. "No, I still have important matters to attend to. I'll be leaving first. Goodbye. After saying that, she did not hesitate and flew down from the stands. In an instant, her figure disappeared outside the gate of the base, without a trace. She had only casually let go of her hand, but it had already caused many people's pupils to shrink violently. No one in the pugilistic world could match her qigong. She was so fast that people couldn't even see her clearly. Unless they could trap her to death, it would be useless no matter how many people surrounded her. This girl is really straightforward, leaving just like that. Old Man Jiang smacked his lips and said. Old Man Jean was a little jealous. At the end of the day, people from the pugilistic world have strange tempers. Come on, Old Man Jean, don't be jealous. Chen Guang hasn't said anything yet. Old Man Jiang comforted him. Your granddaughter still has a chance. Old leaders, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving too. As they were talking, Chen Guang came up to them again. Where are you going this time? Jiang Yuanshao, who was beside him, glared and asked. Chen Guang organized his words in his mind and really didn't know what to say. To be honest, he couldn't think of anything more important than the leader's dinner after the military exercise. But I can't just tell you guys that I'm going on a date with Wen, right? Therefore, he decided to try his nonsense. Well, I'm playing games with my friends tonight. Chapter 661. The Old Man in the Middle. Old Jiang. Old Jean. All the other old men. Secretary Ma, who was quietly hiding at the side. All the young military personnel and political officials who were eavesdropping and watching from the side. To be honest, why don't you just say that you're going to find faction leader one? Alright, you can go. Old Jean rubbed his brows and waved his hand. After Chen Guang ran far away, the other old men came to comfort Old Jean. Old Jean, don't take it too hard. Chen Guang and faction leader Wen have known each other for a long time. They've always been good friends. Didn't I hear from Jingwei that they play games together every day in school? Maybe they're really playing games together? That's right, don't take it too hard. Sai, unusual people do unusual things. We still lack understanding of martial arts practitioners. They really have a lot of quirks. Who would have thought that they're actually gaming fans? Isn't that mental opium that's very harmful? No, we have to go back and increase the anti-addiction system for all the games in the country. Even adults have to have anti-addiction systems. You're coming up with ideas again, aren't you? You'll be cursed to death by those youngsters. Old Man Jean saw that everyone was discussing among themselves. Save it. Forget it. Children and grandchildren have their own lives. I don't care anymore. I can't care anymore. The people from the pugilistic world didn't stay for long either. One after another, they came to bid their farewells. No one was in the mood to eat at the state banquet. No matter how sumptuous the dishes on the table were, no one was in the mood to eat. Everyone was very uncertain and had to bring what they saw back to their sects as soon as possible to discuss. As for some of the sect masters who were there in person, most of them had already agreed to join the pugilistic world in advance. They were just making up their minds again. The next step was to find the Guangdong General Office to discuss the specific details of the cooperation. Even some of the weaker sects didn't expect to reach an equal and mutually beneficial agreement. They just hoped that they wouldn't be restricted too much. The two sect masters of Thousand Despair Sect and Thousand Flower Valley were overjoyed. They had made the right choice to choose a side in advance. The only two deputy directors of the Guangdong General Office were their eldest disciples. It didn't matter what other people would end up talking about, as long as he wouldn't suffer a loss. As for the methods to deal with the major sects, the old men already had a complete set of plans in mind. First of all, regardless of which sect it was, they could forget about treating the common people like ants. This was their bottom line, and it couldn't be touched. Secondly, the relationship between the two parties was still based on cooperation. They would enjoy certain privileges according to the degree of contribution they made. At the same time, they would also have to consider their own strength. The stronger they were, the greater the contribution they made, and the more privileges they would enjoy. Of course, the people of the Jianghu were sometimes hard to change. Under certain conditions or circumstances, The people of the Jianghu could still enjoy some privileges that ordinary people could not obtain. For example, they did not need to meddle in the affairs of their enemies. Or even if there were civilian casualties, they would consider the cause of the incident. For example, if a group of hooligans ran into the hands of Jianghu people and provoked them, who could be blamed for that? No matter what, the situation facing the inner force martial artists was that they could no longer be as unbridled as before. They had to transform and restrain themselves. But not everyone was completely out of ideas. What do we do now? This is not the situation that Mr. Ng wants. In the crowd, there were still some people gathered in groups of 2s and 3s, discussing in low voices. You ask me, but who should I ask? Let Mr. Ng worry about it himself. We will see what he wants to do. You want to rebel against Mr. Ng? Don't talk nonsense. Do you believe that I will fight with you now? Just kidding. How can you make such a joke? Alas, who would have thought that the Wenwen family could make a comeback? Where did Wenwen get such an adventure? Her speed of improvement is really scary. Forget it. Let's go. Chen Guang borrowed a car from the base and drove happily on the road. He was in high spirits when there was a happy occasion. Although it was a hard day today, the result was still gratifying. The individual military exercise was really exciting. As a member of the Jianghu system, he felt at ease after watching it. Other than that, Wenwen had become stronger again. Of course, that was good news. Soon, I would be able to uproot the poison sect and the dark sect. By then, I and Wenwen would be avenged. Then, I would have nothing to worry about anymore. Most importantly, she was waiting for me in the motel. Hee hee. I smiled proudly and floated in the air. With such a happy mood, Chen Guang found a public parking lot in the town. Then, he took out the wig that he had prepared earlier from his bag and ran to the motel. Boss, I'm here again. The boss of the motel looked at Chen Guang quietly. Presidential Suite 301. The entire third floor is yours. Please pay a deposit of 10,000 yuan. Why is it so expensive? Since when did your crappy motel have a presidential suite? We didn't have one at first, but now we do. It was specially made for you and your wife. The quality is definitely not as good as a real presidential suite, but the price is almost right. After all, you have to break at least one of my beds every time. A bed doesn't cost 10,000 yuan. Your iron bed is inlaid with gold. I'm afraid that the building will collapse. Repairing it would cost at least 10,000 yuan. You're right. I'm speechless. That's settled then. Take out the money quickly. You look rich anyway. The boss chuckled. Suddenly, she frowned and raised her eyebrows. Young man, you have a good physique. You look familiar. Chen Guang was creeped out by her gaze. He threw 10,000 yuan down and rushed upstairs. I'm giving you 10,000 yuan. You don't have to return it. Don't gossip. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble. The boss took the money. She did not remember who Chen Guang was. Forget it. I really don't understand the world of the rich. Chen Guang pushed the door open happily. I'm coming. Before he finished his sentence, he saw a black shadow pouncing at him like a fierce tiger. The strong wind blew against his face. He could not even stand steadily and fell backward subconsciously. Oh my God. Before he could finish his sentence, Chen Guang felt a pair of sharp claws grabbing his shoulders. He wanted to struggle, but he saw a pair of white palms coming for his forehead. Wait! Bang! He fainted without hesitation. Who knew what he had experienced that night? His great desolate force was almost sucked dry. Anyway, when he woke up he was tied to a tree. He felt like his bones were about to fall apart when he moved slightly. What's going on? What happened last night? Why did I knock her out again? Must it be like this every time? Can't we be normal for once? She's going to say that we're innocent again, right? I know she's talking nonsense, but I can't refute her. He struggled to break the rope. He leaned against the tree and took out his phone. Only then did he see the long message Wenwen had sent him. Yes, that's right. Nothing happened yesterday. Very good. Shameless as always. I've become very powerful now, and I'm getting stronger with every passing moment. The poison sect and the dark sect have been forced into hiding by me. I'll be able to find their lair very soon. Sis, can you slow down a little? Otherwise, I'll feel like my efforts are meaningless. About 30% of the 3 aristocratic families, 8 major sects, 72 sects, and hundreds of small sects have secretly formed an alliance with me. We're just waiting for the final battle after we dig out their lair. But there are undercurrents in the martial arts world. The poison sect and the dark sect are also one of the 8 major sects and are very powerful. As far as I know, they've won over at least 30% of the people in the martial arts world. I don't know how they managed to attract others to form an alliance with them. Maybe there's something I don't know. But it doesn't matter. As long as I keep getting stronger, I might even surpass the level of Wenzong and become a legendary master. By then, no matter what tricks they have up their sleeves, they won't be my match. Ha 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 ha. Initially, her words were very imposing, and Chen Guang was just about to give her a thumbs up. However, her 4 ha's had completely shattered the image of this generation's expert. Sigh, she couldn't have become an idiot from practicing martial arts, could she? Forget it. Even if she's an idiot, I can probably save her. Carefully landing on the ground along the tree trunk, Chen Guang decided to return to West Mountain. He glanced at the inn and felt a little uneasy. When he walked out of the forest, a rustling sound came from a tree about 50 to 60 meters away from the tree he was resting on. Wenwen jumped down from the tree, and when she landed, her legs were so weak that she almost fell on her butt. She had a smile on her face, one that seemed a little shy and a little bitter. She was right. Once she got close to him, she would completely lose control. It wasn't a simple emotional loss, but it was a loss of control from her body to her heart. Every inch of her soul would scream because of his approach, and every inch of her skin and flesh would tremble because of his attraction. He was like a lethal poison. It was really terrible. Was there antimatter hidden in this guy's body? Oh, but then again, he was too good at tormenting people. A dignified guru was actually tormented by him? Wenwen tried to take 2 more steps, and then she tripped and fell on her back on the ground. She was very aggrieved and hammered the floor. I'm not coming again. I'm not coming again. Bastard. Oh, my stomach. It's so sour. Chen Guang hid far away and silently looked at the lady boss who was cursing with her hands on her hips. 10,000 yuan is not enough. The prefabricated board is broken. Which heartless animal sent people to torment me on purpose? Chen Guang silently touched his bald head and turned to leave. He thought to himself, although he fainted yesterday, it should also be a terrible and shocking battle. In fact, a lot of things happened in Yanjing City last night. The long-awaited gunshot rang for more than 20 minutes. Many people were awakened from their sleep, and then nervously curled up in their homes. Ouyang Tianqing sat on a chair with a gloomy face. He was sitting on a fishing boat heading south along Lansong River. His crazy counterattack had failed. Not even in his wildest dreams did he expect that on that very night, there would be so many sect leaders of various sects and clans who had reached an agreement with the old men to stay overnight in Yanjing City. Less than 5 minutes after he launched his surprise attack, the sect leaders of the big sects and small sects began to arrive one after another. They began to fight with the inner force martial artists that he had managed to win over with great difficulty. There was a huge disparity in strength between the 2 sides. Other people's helpers were sect leaders, elders, and other core members. The people that he could find were mostly outer disciples who had been expelled from their sects, or had no abilities. Other than that, some of the individual weapons that were displayed the day before were indeed very powerful. They caused devastating damage to the people that he sent out, and shortened the entire battle to less than half an hour. At the same time, all the special affairs bureaus were destroyed. Other than the spies that had already reached a compromise with the higher-ups, the rest were all arrested at the same time. Those who were arrested were all killed on the spot. Almost no one managed to escape. This was the style of the old men. They would either wait patiently, or they would plan before making a move. Once they were fully prepared, they would attack with the force of a thunderbolt, not giving any chance to struggle or resist. Ouyang Tianqing's sneaky tricks were nothing in front of the old men, who had been running this country for decades. When the martial artists feared the power of modern military equipment, It was the time that the backing that Ouyang Tianqing was so proud of began to weaken. It was also the time for the old men to launch their thunderous attacks. However, Ouyang Tianqing never dreamed that their attacks would come so quickly and so fiercely. He thought that there would be a process of wrangling and negotiation, and then the Special Affairs Bureau would be gradually weakened until it was finally replaced. Then, he would be able to take the opportunity to catch them off guard. However, he did not expect that the other party would also be prepared to kill him today. I was fooled by the state banquet after their military exercise. These cunning old foxes. When Ouyang Tianqing realized that he could not do anything, he boarded the fishing boat without hesitation. The boss took $100,000 from him and promised to send him all the way to the southern border. Gradually the sky outside brightened. A ray of sunlight shone through the round glass window in the cabin. Not only was the place where Ouyang Tianqing sat not illuminated, but it was also made even darker by the light. He slowly shrunk into the shadow, his body trembling uncontrollably. His fists were clenched tightly. He could not accept it. He had been working for more than a decade, but he had been uprooted in a short month. It was all just a dream. The sun slowly rose into the sky outside, but the light in the cabin grew dimmer and dimmer until it was pitch black. Even the sunlight from the window could not shine in. Chen Guang found out about the news at around 9 in the morning. He could not say how he felt about it. The Special Affairs Bureau had done all sorts of evil, and they should have met their end a long time ago. He had only participated and witnessed it from the side. Perhaps he had played an indispensable role in the middle, but the real main characters were still the old men. Even though they looked like they did not respect their elders in front of him, they were actually sharp stones that stood tall in the middle of the river, in the torrent of history. If he underestimated them because of their jokes, he would end up like the Special Affairs Bureau. However, he was a little unhappy that he did not manage to catch the unlucky director Ouyang. It gave him a feeling that the culprit had not been punished. Chen Guang parked his car by the roadside and played with his phone out of boredom. He thought to himself, "Director Ouyang, every debt has a debtor. Don't come looking for trouble with me for no reason." Chapter 662. In fact, he knew that he didn't have to worry about it. The old men's military exercise was too successful. Even when one felt threatened, let alone others. If he was Ouyang Tianqing, or the leader of the dark sect or poison sect, he would know that it was pointless to focus on a small fry like him. Even if I die, the old men will just send another director to take my position. Even if my communication with Wenwen and the other martial artists isn't smooth, it won't affect the overall situation. Chen Guang was a little disheartened. I'm not that important. Forget it. Being a small fry has its advantages. At least when the sky falls, the tall ones will die first. Besides, I'm not really that small. The Guangding General Bureau, named after the old man, is at least a vice-ministerial level. The old man is the director, right? Have you ever seen a 21-year-old official? Are you afraid? Are you nervous? Do you want to learn? Sorry, others can't learn. What if Lin Jingwei, or another second or third generation tried to take my position? That would cause an uproar. Other second or third generations were promoted. Just like Uncle Wu, they had to climb up one step at a time. If they made a mistake in the middle and fell, it would basically be the end of their life. It took Wu Shan decades to climb to the same rank as Chen Guang. Too many things happened during this period, and he paid a huge price. He even lost his wife and son. Wu Tong still hadn't truly forgiven him. Just thinking about it made him feel tired. However, Chen Guang only used less than half a month. He was carried up while lying on the ground. He had to do it. Although he didn't take it seriously, this was a unique miracle in the entire country, and since the founding of China. Of course, there would be people who were secretly dissatisfied. There were many people like Qiao Shiming. However, after yesterday, there would probably be fewer people who were dissatisfied. Now, his importance was not limited to Wenwen alone. It had been proven that he was also a link between the Huaxia government and inner force martial artists. He seemed to have a unique experience in dealing with inner force martial artists. The elders treated him as a diplomat in Huaxia. In addition, Among the thousands of elite soldiers and police officers who had received his special training in the special training area of Shund, only about 40 of them had really learned his skills. However, the rest of them had also witnessed his incredible ability to turn stone into gold with their own eyes. They had also witnessed his amazing dart skills on the spot, so they were sincerely convinced by him as the chief drill master. Just as Old Man Chow had said, all of this would be the accumulation of Chen Guang's experience and prestige in the army in the future. Regardless of whether he would officially enter the military in the future, these were his qualifications and connections. In the future, he would be familiar with his face wherever he went, and he would be able to swipe his face card everywhere. Chen Guang slapped the steering wheel. Alas, the old man originally wanted to rely on his pair of iron fists to make a name for himself, but unknowingly, he became the most powerful person in China. How could he endure this? What do I need this iron rod for? I have so many tricks up my sleeves, but in the end, I'm just a pitiful face card. With a long sigh, he started the car again. Just as he was about to continue to the city, a black Audi suddenly rushed up from the back. A sense of crisis arose in Chen Guang's heart. This person has bad intentions. Alright, I'm regretting it now. Actually, I prefer to live a peaceful life. I only wanted to show off a little in my heart, and someone immediately rushed out to take my life. This karmic retribution came too quickly. If Chen Guang could start the car, with his driving skills, the Audi would not be able to catch up with him. However, he had just started the car, and the other person had already rushed up to him at full speed. A deafening sound of brakes rang out, and then the Audi slammed into the side door of Chen Guang's car, causing his car to tilt up slightly. Fortunately, Chen Guang reacted quickly. Seeing that the situation was not good, he jumped to the side and jumped to the passenger seat. Otherwise, his whole body might have been wrapped in the deformed car. But at the same time, the violent vibration of the car caused him to hit the roof cover, and he was a little dizzy. Without much time to think, Chen Guang grabbed the satchel on the passenger seat, opened the passenger door and jumped out. He wrapped the satchel around his waist and was on full alert. Two people rushed out of the Audi. They were dressed in black, and their faces were covered. One of them was holding a narrow triangular poisonous blade, and they surrounded Chen Guang from both sides. Chen Guang, it's time for you to go to hell, one of them said in a low, muffled voice. The other person also smiled sinisterly. I thought I wouldn't have a chance to find you in the middle of the night. It's really a case of wearing out iron shoes in fruitless search, only to find you by chance. If the heavens want you dead, you have to die. Although the two of them were shouting arrogantly, their eyes were extremely solemn. Although they didn't have much information on Chen Guang, they knew that he didn't have any internal energy. However, they knew that Chen Guang had a myriad of tricks up his sleeves despite not having any internal energy. Not to mention that his darts and hidden weapons were the best in the world. His arms were extremely powerful, and he didn't even need to use internal energy to injure others. Other than that, they also heard that Chen Guang was the kind of person who risked his life. If there was a disagreement, he would exchange injury for injury, and defeat the strong with the weak. The danger came too suddenly and too hastily. Chen Guang swept his eyes over them, but he could not tell how strong they were. However, from the way they walked and the way they held their sabers, he could tell that they had real martial arts. They were much more powerful than the two poison sect and dark sect subordinates he had chased in the forest outside Shishan town. They were most likely bone force martial artists. There was no way they could run. F***ck, if I can't beat them, the old man will run first. Humph. How dare the two of you try to fight me? Ouyang Tianxing has already been executed. Are you two lackeys going to avenge him? Chen Guang lied through his teeth, completely guessing the other party's identity. His hands shook, and a total of 8 darts slipped out of his waist bag. He held them in his left and right hands. What? Impossible. Bureau Chief Ouyang is a genius. How could something happen to him? Don't try to bluff us. He didn't think that his nonsense would actually lead to the truth. As expected, they're assassins sent by Ouyang Tianxing. Chen Guang thought to himself. That's right. How could they only target the old man? I'm an important person too. How could I be completely ignored? The old man is still valued. That's right, I'm important. A sense of pride rose in his heart. F***ck. What time is this? And I'm still showing off. Why would I lie to you? If you don't believe me, try contacting them yourself. Just last night, the Special Affairs Bureau was almost wiped out, okay? Fine, Ouyang Tianxing is not dead, but he fled to avoid punishment. But you two didn't receive the news? You're abandoned. Seriously, bro, put down the butcher's knife. It's not too late to surrender now. I'm the bureau chief of the Guangdong General Headquarters. With me protecting you, you'll have a good life with me in the future. It'll be much better than following Ouyang Tianxing and putting your lives on the line. Chen Guang said tentatively as he slowly retreated. The enemy was strong while he was weak. First show the enemy that we're weak, then reason with them, and finally lure them with benefits. This was all a trick. In the end, he wasn't wrong. Ever since the two of them received Ouyang Tianxing's order to chase after Chen Guang, they had completely cut off contact with their superiors. The reason why the Special Case Bureau used a single line of communication was to prevent any information from being leaked. But it had now become a problem. The two of them searched for Chen Guang all night. They only knew that Chen Guang had come to West Mountain. But how could they keep up with Wenwen's movements? Like headless flies, they searched for nothing the whole night. It was only when they were about to give up on the mission and leave in the morning that they saw Chen Guang's car parked by the side of the road. That was why this happened. Is what you're saying true? One of them was already wavering. Don't believe his nonsense. Don't you know he's a cunning man? Cut the crap. Take his head to see Bureau Chief Ouyang. The other person seemed to be more determined and said coldly. Chen Guang's gaze sharpened. Then you'd better think carefully. The person who gave you the credit has already fled. But if you take my life, then you won't have any place to hide in this world. Think about who I am. Am I just the bureau chief of the Guangdong General Headquarters? Who am I? Do you understand? Sigh. I didn't think that there would be a day when I would say something like this. My illustrious reputation has been destroyed in an instant. This is the same logic as those second generations asking others if they know who their father is when they are being chased and beaten. Humph. Don't even think of scaring us. Since we dared to come, we're naturally not afraid of the Wen family's she-devil. Bureau Chief Ouyang has his own arrangements. The guy who had been very determined earlier seemed to have steeled his heart. Chen Guang was speechless. This guy must have a hole in his head. How did such a stupid person cultivate bone force? All right, since the two of you are so stubborn, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Chen Guang no longer retreated. He turned and stood his ground, looking at the two people with a cold and domineering face. Do you really think that I don't cultivate inner strength like the rumors say? Ignorant. If I was really that useless, why would Wenwen like me? To tell you the truth, Wenwen's ability is not even 1/10 of the old man's. Yes, that's right. Congratulations. You can finally see the ability of the real big boss. What? The two of them were shocked. They even guessed that Chen Guang was bluffing. But his words were so logical that it made them believe him. But there was no inner strength surging from his body. Could it be that he had reached the stage of returning to his original state? The more they thought about it, the more they felt that it was possible. In addition, Chen Guang looked so confident and domineering at this time, which made them even more alarmed. They clenched the poisonous blades in their hands and tightened their muscles to be on guard. I'll show you the lost technique of Jianghu, Buddha's godly dart. Chen Guang slowly raised his hands. What the F***ck, big brother, do you have to name this move so domineering? Also, why did you shout out the name of the move? Take this. Chen Guang didn't waste any more time. He shook his hands at the same time, and 8 darts whistled through the air, pouncing on the two people's heads, hearts, and lower bodies. One dart was deliberately shot to the side, which was called block movement. The two people were shocked by Chen Guang. The darts came too fast, and the angle was too tricky. It was extremely difficult to dodge. They were indeed masters of bone strength. At this critical moment, the two people waved their poisonous blades and twisted their bodies. The poisonous blades deflected 2 darts, and they dodged 2 darts. They were safe and sound. Strange, why didn't they carry inner strength? Although the strength of these darts is very strong, and ordinary people definitely can't hit them, the speed is also so fast, and the angle is also tricky. But without inner strength they can't hurt us. Hey, F***ck, we were tricked. It turned out that Chen Guang had already started running. In the blink of an eye, he was already 200 to 300 meters away from the road into the farmland. This guy was really bluffing. Chase him. This B***** is full of tricks. Chen Guang didn't care about what was behind him. He ran as fast as he could, cursing. I've seen too many idiots like you. You have so many lines to say before you kill someone. You're not straightforward at all. I have 10,000 ways to kill you, okay? Kill me with your head. The old man not only had the Qilin arm, but he also had the heavenly leg breaker and eeless calf. As he ran, he took out his phone and called someone. Coincidentally, he dialed the number he saved when he exchanged numbers with Jiang Yuanchao 2 days ago. Chen Guang? Uncle Jiang? Hurry up and fix my position. Help. These two idiots still don't know that Ouyang Tianxing is in trouble. They're still working for him. They're following me, trying to kill me. These two are probably bone gene cultivators. I'm no match for them. Help. Jiang Yuanchao slammed the table and stood up. Everyone in the meeting room looked at him blankly. This was a high-level meeting. The host of the meeting was Chao Shiming's father. They were discussing the next step to completely annihilate the remnants of the Special Affairs Bureau, how to maintain stability in the current situation, and so on. Little Jiang, what's going on? Old Master Chao asked. Jiang Yuanchao looked down at his phone. Chen Guang had already hung up. He took a deep breath. Chen Guang is being hunted down by the two remnants of the martial artists that Ouyang Tianxing recruited. He's in a critical situation. What? In the huge meeting room, hundreds of people stood up at the same time. Old Master Chao was covered in cold sweat. Quick! Save him! Old Master Chao clutched his chest and was about to collapse. He was not sick at first, but he was so scared that he almost had a heart attack. In the farmland, Chen Guang was still running at full speed. His speed was so fast that it made people's hair stand on end. He estimated that with his speed, he could easily win the 100-meter sprint in the Olympics. However, the two people chasing behind him were not to be trifled with. After all, they had inner force and had their own turbocharged power. They were not slow either. Fortunately, these two idiots did not know how to use hidden weapons, nor did they have any interest in modern firearms. Otherwise, these two idiots would shoot at him while running. That would be a real pain in the ass. Stop right there. The people behind shouted as they chased after him. Do you think I'm stupid? Chen Guang retorted sarcastically. Die obediently, and I'll leave your corpse intact. The other person followed up and cursed. I'm already dead. What's the difference between an intact corpse and a minced meat? I don't feel anything anyway. At the same time, Chen Guang started to criticize the two of them for their ignorance. You obviously don't have inner force. How can you run so well? This is called talent. Do you want to learn? After learning it, I guarantee that you'll improve by leaps and bounds. Really, don't mess around with Ouyang Tianxing. What benefits did he give you? I'll give you double. Alright, I agree. Please stop for a moment. We'll discuss the details in detail. No. You guys leave first today. We'll discuss it another day. I don't trust you guys now. Chen Guang rolled his eyes. You guys want to fool me? Can you guys train for another 10 years? However, after running for a long time, he realized that something was wrong. The tibialis anterior muscles in his feet and calves were very powerful, but he was too biased. There was a burning pain coming from his thighs. His thighs were about to collapse. The feeling on his calves was even more unique. A part of his muscles was in pain, but the other part did not feel anything. It was as if he had just run a little. This kind of disorderly comfort and pain mixed together was more exciting than horse slaughter. If this continued, he would be done for sooner or later. His thighs would definitely not last until reinforcements arrived. What should he do in this situation? If he could not solve his internal affairs, he would ask Liuli. Lord Liuli, help. Your savior is about to die. He used his hand to squeeze the cup in his bag and screamed at the top of his lungs. Can we not talk about what ifs? Give me something useful. For the first time, Chen Guang felt that chatting with Liuli was such a tiring thing. Alright. Even if I'm in such a weak state, I still have 36 methods that can help you avert danger. Listen to me carefully. Please don't imitate the goddess of mercy's voice anymore. Please, merciful Master Luli, save me first. Don't be anxious. Then I'll tell you the 2 most reliable plans. 1. Spend all of your remaining 7 million faith points to speed up the Heaven's Line Cup Intermediate Realm. Then please continue to pray. Who knows? It might just be enough to activate the next Heaven's Line Cup Intermediate Realm. Chen Guang pinched his fingers and calculated. That's right. It's been almost 20 days since the last Heaven's Line Cup Intermediate Realm. Calculating the time, the next one should be coming soon. Liuli once said that the most basic requirement for the Heaven's Line Cup Intermediate Realm was 6 million. If he really spent 7 million faith points, it seemed that there was a chance of activating it. However, it was a little unstable. What if it didn't activate? After all, it was a random entry into the Cup Intermediate Realm within 24 hours. What if he had to wait for the full 24 hours? Or what if he entered, but was unable to practice the Cup Intermediate Realm that could help change the current situation? If anything were to happen to them, they would be dead for sure. Then what about the second plan? Chen Guang asked. You continue to grit your teeth and keep running. At most, you can hold on for another hour. Your friends will definitely come to save you in time. Then the question is, what is your role in the second plan? Chen Guang asked again. Liuli said without hesitation, I'm cheering for you. Come on. Chen Guang. So I'll choose the first plan. After waiting for a few minutes, there was still no movement. It seemed that the Heaven's Line Cup Intermediate Realm was about to fail. There was no reason to talk about the Cup Intermediate Realm. It would come if he said it would. If he said it wouldn't come. What else could he do? Does it mean that I'm really finished? Chen Guang thought to himself. Liuli definitely wouldn't do such a thing. She must have a way to easily get him out of danger. She just didn't say it on purpose to increase his sense of urgency and let him continuously improve his strength in this life and death crisis. That's right. That must be it. That was how it was written in novels. The old grandpa would create a series of extreme training programs for the protagonist. Every time, the male protagonist would feel the threat of death in a dangerous situation. Using this sense of urgency, the male protagonist would constantly surpass himself and break through his limits. But in fact, when the male protagonist really encountered a crisis that he couldn't escape from, the old grandpa would use all kinds of methods to save the male protagonist's life. Yes, Madame Liuli was the God Emperor. This life-saving method was a piece of cake. Wake up, it's time to take your medicine. I really don't know what to do this time. Think about how you survived last time, when you were almost killed by the grenade. Liuli reminded him. Chen Guang immediately recalled. Yes, he was almost killed by the grenade. Luckily, he was smart enough to think of picking up the grenade in time and throwing it into the cup. Later, Liuli almost completely lost her strength in order to open the lid and release the power of the grenade. She really didn't seem to have a good way to deal with the outside world. After a series of careful and rigorous reasoning, as well as an intense negotiation with Liuli, Chen Guang came to the following conclusion. In the face of the current situation, the simplest way for him to deal with it was to pray for the best. Chen Guang, can you stop running? Aren't you tired? The pursuers behind him began to clamor again. Unknowingly, the distance between the two of them had shortened. Chen Guang was also angry. In terms of physical strength, these two were not much stronger than him. But they were bullying him with their inner force. Wait until I learn the painting scroll in my sling bag. Do you think you two weaklings can kill me? Can you stop chasing me? The two of you and I hit it off at first sight. Can't we just talk things over? Why do you have to fight to the death like this? I'm not lying to you. If the Special Affairs Bureau is really done for, Ouyang Tianqing won't be able to escape. He'll die sooner or later. Why do you have to risk your lives for him? I'm indebted to Master Ouyang. If he's really dead, I'll bring your head down to hell to meet him. It'll be the same. No wonder the short man was so determined. It turned out that he owed Ouyang Tianxing a favor. What about the other one? Chen Guang had an idea about the tall man who was not very determined. I'm just getting paid. A salary that can attract martial artists can't be ordinary money, right? I can give you double what Ouyang Tianxing gave you. Think about it, he's just the director of the lousy Special Affairs Bureau. How can he compare to me, the director of the Guangdong General Directorate, who's so spoiled that I can have a word with him wherever I go? Also, you know about the Wen family's hidden treasures. We can get whatever we want from the Wen family's treasury. The tall man was indeed tempted. Don't believe his nonsense. The short man saw that the situation was not right and roared. Seeing that his plan had failed, Chen Guang could only continue running. This guy's getting slower. He won't be able to last long. The short man clenched his teeth. Although he had the help of his inner force, running at full speed for more than 10 minutes was still quite tiring. He hated himself for not having any talent in Qigong when he was practicing martial arts. Otherwise, the young man would have caught up to him long ago. Do we really have to kill him? Or capture him alive? The tall man was a little hesitant. He's so cunning. If you want to capture him alive, you'll only be throwing your life away. The short man convinced the tall man again. The three of them chased each other in the field. They were having fun. The three of them are really fast. Are they athletes? They're training so hard in the morning. They'll definitely bring glory to the country in the future. Good luck. The farmers who were farming in the field waved at the three of them enthusiastically. After the three of them ran far away, a farmer scratched his head in confusion. What did the man in front of us say to us? Call the police? He was spitting white bubbles as he ran. I didn't hear him clearly. No, it should be loyal to the country. Maybe it's the slogan of a long-distance running team. At least the farmers weren't wrong about one thing. Chen Guang was really foaming at the mouth. Before today, Chen Guang would never have thought that he could run so well. After all, he was a veteran otaku. Even though his talent in sports wasn't bad, he was still able to lie on his bed and play games in his dorm room. He was too lazy to even leave his room. His fit and beautiful body was all thanks to the instantaneous ocean. Asking him to go out and exercise was basically asking for his life. He didn't know where Uncle Zhang's reinforcements were, but he was getting more and more tired. Not to mention the fatigue on his waist, part of his calf muscles, and his entire thigh seemed to be on fire. Every time he took a step, he felt like 1,000 needles were pricking his thigh. He wished he could take out a knife and cut off the muscles on his thigh piece by piece. He raised his head silently, looking at the bright sun that had risen to the middle of the sky in the morning. He gradually lost himself. How he missed the days when he ran and played football with a group of friends in high school. Those were all old youth. No matter how hard and tired he was, he couldn't burn the hot blood of running. How he longed to run like this forever, just like Forrest Gump. I have good news. The world in the cup that you wanted has arrived. Please check it. At this time, Liuli was still in the mood to tease him. Chapter 664. Chen Guang's mind was in a daze. He only knew that he was running forward in a daze. He really wished that God would grant him a pair of perfect legs that would never know fatigue, just like Qilin's arms. He was not in the mood to pay attention to Liuli. Lu Minghua swayed her branches and leaves in the world in the cup, and teased in a very wicked way. That's exactly how we torture him. It's better if he dies of exhaustion. Liuli rolled her eyes at Lu Minghua. It's easy for you to say. If he really dies of exhaustion, we're finished. Sister Liuli, why do I feel that you are not nervous at all? What if he really dies? Lu Minghua asked. Liuli shrugged. If he really dies, it's fate. Even if we are gods, we have to believe in fate. Isn't this what he always says? Like the big bell in the world of fate? Lu Minghua asked curiously. Liuli shook her head. What the bell of fate can control is the fate of mortals, not his fate nor our fate. Alas, Lu Minghua sighed. It's a little depressing to think about it. But can he really survive this time? If he is unlucky in this world in the cup, he will have to wait for 24 hours. Liuli looked up at the endless sky above the sea of clouds in the world in the cup. So, it all depends on fate. It depends on whether this broken cup is willing to protect him. The reinforcements came faster than Chen Guang imagined. Although he seemed to be running blindly, in fact he had been running eastward, in the direction of downtown Yanjing. About a few minutes later, 7 or 8 black spots suddenly appeared on the horizon. They were helicopters flying in the sky. If it was the normal Chen Guang, he might be overjoyed, but at this time, he almost put all his attention on the extremely simple task of finding the way. He became a machine, or perhaps a walking corpse. His movements were stiff and rigid, but he persistently ran forward step by step. Chen Guang was probably the only person in the world who knew what it felt like to run at full speed for more than half an hour. Even the 10,000-meter sprinters in the Olympic Games would not run at full speed at the start of the race. But Chen Guang had to run like this because he didn't want to die. The uneven level of muscles in his body allowed him to do things that were incomprehensible to ordinary people. But it also brought him great pain. If there were no other special circumstances, his 2 legs would probably be amputated after today's run. His reinforcements are here. They sure are fast. The short man gritted his teeth. Why don't we retreat? If we wait any longer, we won't be able to escape. What are you afraid of? Although we have just broken through muscle strength not long ago, we are still genuine bone strength martial artists. So what if we are just soldiers? What can they do to us? But they have a lot of people. What if they bring a big guy? Go. I know you believe Chen Guang's bullsh*t and think that Master Ouyang is really in trouble. I won't stop you. Go on your own. I can take care of this myself. But don't blame Master Ouyang for what he will do to you later. The short man was enraged. He sprinted forward again. Although he was also at the end of his rope, he still had more strength than Chen Guang. Jiang Yuanchao sat in the helicopter with the sword-wielding nun from the Thousand Despair sect, and the beautiful woman in a flowery dress from the Thousand Flower Valley. Both of them were martial artists at the pinnacle of skin strength. Although they were no match for Wenwen, they were considered top-notch martial artists among the ordinary martial artists. Oh no! Chen Guang is about to fall. Can Mr. Jiang go any faster? The sword-wielding nun shouted anxiously. She had excellent eyesight, and could see from afar that Chen Guang was not in a good condition. The beautiful woman in a flowery dress also said, "There's an air of death around this kid. He's running with his life on the line." Jiang Yuanchao also used a pair of binoculars to watch Chen Guang stumble forward in the field. Although his posture was awkward, and he looked like he was about to fall at any moment, his speed was extremely fast as he moved forward step by step. Before this, Jiang Yuanchao's impression of Chen Guang was only at the level of admiration. But at this moment, he finally understood what kind of terrifying potential and strong will this kid's seemingly not overly muscular body actually contained. It had been about 35 minutes since he received his call and confirmed his location, and he had already covered a distance of 16 kilometers on the map. This meant that he had been running at a speed of nearly 13 seconds for 100 meters for 35 minutes, an average speed of 7.69 meters per second. The men's 10,000-meter record for the Rio Olympics was 27 minutes 01 seconds, an average speed of 6.17 meters per second. Chen Guang's distance was longer, and his speed was faster. He had broken the Olympic record by 24.64%. He can't go any faster. This is the limit of the helicopter. Masters, is it true that Chen Guang didn't practice inner force? Jiang Yuanchao asked. The sword-wielding nun nodded heavily. Of course not. Based on the bone structure he displayed, even if he only practiced muscle gene, the 2 people who just started bone gene wouldn't be able to push him to this extent. Is Chen Guang's bone structure really that scary? Also, what is bone structure? Jiang Yuanchao asked curiously. The beautiful woman in a flowery dress thought for a moment. Mr. Jiang, according to the rules in the past, we can't tell you these things. But now we can tell you. The so-called bone structure, in the eyes of ordinary people like you, refers to a person's physique, or refers to his athletic talent. For us martial artists to practice inner force, we first choose disciples with excellent bone structure. Then, through years of external training, our body will be tempered, and our functions will be strengthened. Finally, we will reach the standard of activating inner force. Chen Guang's situation is extremely bizarre. His arms and legs are missing, and he can be considered a rare genius. In the eyes of us martial artists, he's someone who has reached the pinnacle of his physique and can trigger his internal energy, just like dry wood Lai Hua. As long as he is given the seed of inner force, he can become a genius disciple immediately and make great progress. Then why hasn't faction leader Wen taught him martial arts? Jiang Yuanchao asked curiously. Sect master Wen did pass it down, and it's the one clan's strongest martial art, the painting scroll. It's just that the other parts of Chen Guang's body are mediocre. So this matter might sound simple, but it's actually complicated. I see. In other words, Chen Guang is an unorthodox genius? The sword-wielding nun concluded. You can say that. He's a genius who is partial to a particular subject. It seems that every once in a while, a certain part of his body will suddenly become perfect. This is what my disciple told me. If his entire body becomes perfect, it's only a matter of time before he becomes stronger than sect master Wen in the future. If Chen Guang knew that these people were still in the mood to discuss his bone structure, he would definitely curse the 3 female juniors in his family. But now he had no time to think about this. Finally, when he passed by a ridge of fields, he accidentally stepped on a banana peel and fell backward. Looking at the sky that was getting brighter and brighter, he lay quietly on the ground. His mind was in a daze, as if his soul had been sucked dry, and his life was over. Dying like this is such a waste. Sure enough, one must cultivate inner force to live. Our one could slap a bunch of these weaklings to death with a single slap, right? When teacher Zhua. Oh, and Annie from the instantaneous sea, after I die, please don't remarry. Just as he was thinking about this, his soul was really sucked out. What? My darling, the world in a cup. You're finally here. He lay quietly, and before he knew it, tears fell from the corners of his eyes. He didn't know if it was because he was touched or because his hormones were out of balance. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.